Hello, hello. IT.
Hello?
Testing, testing.
Mic check.
Hello?
No.
Yeah.
Testing. Ah,
There you go. Thank you.
you have to do old-fashioned way. You have to yell out there. Good evening and welcome to the City of Paris Planning Commission meeting, May 18th, 2022, and it's approximately 6:08 p.m. And welcome. I hope we have enough air conditioning here too, so you can get through it. And at this time, we'll have the roll call to order from our Ryan Griffins.
Commissioner Lopez,
Here?
Commissioner Jimenez,
Present.
Commissioner Gomez,
Here.
Vice Chair Shively,
Here?
Chair Hammond.
Here. Thank you very much. And we move on to item 3. We're going to say just a moment of silence, and then we go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Lopez. Okay.
Please stand for the pledge.
Item 5, I don't believe we have a presentation. We haven't in some time. And we move to consent calendar, item 6A, Planning Commission minutes for April 20th, 2022. And for those commissioners, do we have any changes, deletions, corrections in spelling, anything?
I didn't see any.
Commissioner Shively.
Didn't see any. I didn't see any.
Okay. At this time, we have a public comment on the consent calendar. If anyone would like to have public comment on the consent calendar, you're welcome to come forward at this time or by Zoom. Okay, seeing none, can we entertain a motion? Motion by Commissioner Jimenez, seconded by Vice Chairman Shively.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes?
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively, Chair Hammond.
Yes.
With a vote of 5 yes, this motion passes.
Thank you very much. Should make note that we still have Zoom meeting information, and those that are on Zoom we will acknowledge. Wednesday, May 18, 2022, and the topic would be Planning Commission meeting. And obviously, if the person is on Zoom, we will recognize that person through our great IT section. So we will be stopping on occasion. If someone is on the Zoom, we will listen to them and get their comments. Okay. We also have an interpreter there. Glad to see him back. And so if someone needs an interpreter, please acknowledge that you might need an interpreter. And you come to the desk and we'll give you 6 minutes. Okay. That's normal. Yeah, I think for the future. Thank you very much. Now we move to public hearing, item 7A. Okay, 7B. Development Plan Review 21-00012 and Variance 21-05196. A proposal to develop 6 townhomes consisting of 2 detached homes and 2 sets of attached home with a reduced front yard setback due to an irregular shaped narrow lot on .46 acre located at the southeast corner of Orange Avenue and Medical Center Drive within the multifamily residential FR14 zone. Applicant Ivano Segmegna, if I got that wrong, please let me know, for Nova Homes Incorporated. The requested action, adopt resolution number 22-12, recommending that the Planning Commission find the project exempt from CEQA. Pursuant to Section 15332, Class 32 Infill Development, and approving development plan review, DPR 21-00012, and variance 21-05196, based on the findings contained in the resolution and attached exhibits and conditions of approval. And as always at this time, do we have any ex parte communication or any site visits or anything that we can disclose at this time?
I have ex parte communications. We had an ad hoc meeting with the applicant.
Yes, Commissioner Shively.
As Commissioner Jimenez, I was also part of that ad hoc meeting, and I've driven by the site.
Thank you very much.
This is Commissioner Lopez. I've driven by the site.
Commissioner Gomez, I've just driven by the site.
And Chairman Hammond, I've driven by and sat at the site. Okay.
Good evening, Chairman Hammond. Before Mr. Griffith makes his presentation, I just want to make a clerical correction to the requested action. It's not to recommend the Planning Commission find the project, it's
To the City
Uh,
Council.
it's to find the project exempt from the secret document. So I just want to make sure that the project is being considered by the Planning Commission and the City Council, not by the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission is being requested to approve the project and determine the project is category exempt. I just want to make that clerical correction. It's kind of just, the wording was a little, could be a little massaged a little more, so I just want to just mention that as a matter of information before Mr. Ryan presents the project.
Okay, so then in that wording would be recommending to the City Council, but we would be the CEQA.
No, this project, you would be approving the project for
Right.
the 6 townhomes, and you would be determining the project is category exempt and should approve the project.
So it should be, okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Good evening, Chair Hammond and members of the Planning Commission. I'm Ryan Griffiths, and I'll be presenting the 6 townhomes under DPR 21-00012. So, taking a look at the site, it is located at the southeast corner of Orange and Medical Center Drive. It is zoned MFR 14, which is multifamily residential with up to 14 units per acre. If you take a look, the surrounding area is developed by single-family homes, which the zoning also allows, so it's single-family or multifamily. And everything basically around here is developed. And the property directly to the west is currently in development for a multifamily townhome development. Taking a quick look at the site, so you can see it's kind of irregular. It's very long and skinny. It's less than actually half an acre, and the dimensions are 400 feet long and only 50 feet deep. So this is taking a look across the street, looking directly at the project site towards the east. You can see the little bit of dirt. That would be the project site there. The sidewalk is existing. And then between the existing residential homes to the east, there is an 8-foot block wall. It's a 2-foot, and then there's a little step for a retaining wall, and then there's an additional 6 feet. That would be for the backyards of those houses. This is looking to the south. This is Flame Avenue, and you can see a little more of the depth of the site as well as the existing improvements of the sidewalk and the street, curb, and also the fire hydrant. This is looking directly north from the site. You can see again, once again, the depth of the lot, the existing block wall to the east, and also that new residential development, multifamily, to the west. This is looking directly to the west at that new development, which would be 2-story, and it's more of a cluster home, townhome development. Taking a look at the overall site plan, there's going to be 4 buildings. 2 of those are going to be a duplex, and then 2 of those are more single-family oriented. They're all going to be on the same parcel, though, so it will be considered multifamily development. They range in size from 1,686 square feet to 1,774 square feet. Each unit would have 3 dedicated parking spots. 2 of those will be within a garage, and 1 will be to the rear of the home. Each unit will have a completely fenced rear yard. If you look at the blue lines on the site plan, that would be the 6-foot block wall, decorative block wall that will be included. All the fencing for the project will be blocked. There will be no vinyl. So each unit will have its own dedicated rear yard. The yellow line there will show where that existing 8-foot block wall is located. The red area shows that there will be decorative paving for each one of the 3 driveway entrances. The walkways to the actual front porch will also be decorative as well. And then for the overall site, 24% of it will be landscaped for on-site, not including the off-site landscaping around the parkway. And that will actually be maintained by the property management, as this will be one parcel and the units will be rented out individually. Landscaping will be maintained by the property owner, not the individual tenants. Taking a look at the development standards, this project meets most of the standards, but there are a few standards it does not meet, and that's why the variance is being requested tonight. It meets lot coverage, building height. It does not meet the front setback, so that's one reason for the variance. It does meet the street side setback, the side setback between the buildings, and also meets the rear setback. It meets the on-site storage requirements as well as the open space, and it does not meet the amenity requirements per the MFR 14 code. For the parking standards, it's based off the number of units. So each unit is required to have 2 spaces, 1 within the garage. This one was providing 2 within the garage. And then there's also an additional requirement for 1 guest space per every 5 units. This project is providing 1 guest space basically for every unit. So 13 spaces are required, but they're providing 18. Here's some of the renderings, the colored elevation showing the 2 single-family ones. These ones would be the 2 units on the corner. And this would be showing the 2 duplex structures that would be in the middle of the lot. These are being developed, basically, the architecture is meant to follow the existing homes in the area as to not stand out and kind of blend in with the multifamily across the street as well as the existing residential that's been there for quite some time. One other note, and that's why I included this, since these are 2-story, we wanted to provide and keep the privacy for the existing homes to the east, since they are single-story and these homes will be 2-story. So we made sure to keep the minimum 15 feet rear setback. And as well, if you look at the east elevations on these images, you'll see the windows for the 2nd story are raised up and they're smaller. So that way people can't look out and look into these people's backyards, but it also will still allow light into the units in the bedrooms or whatever building or whatever room configuration would be in these areas. But we wanted to keep that sensitivity for those existing homes to the east. And that goes for the elevations for the duplex as well. They have that same style of window. So for the variance, 2105196, this would mainly be due to that oddly shaped lot that I discussed earlier. So basically, the request would be a reduction of the front setback. So currently, it's at 15 feet is the minimum for the front yard. Minimum for the rear yard is also 15 feet. So this lot is only 50 feet deep. So you'd have 15 in the front, 15 in the rear. So you'd only have 20 feet to develop, which is basically the depth of a 2-car garage. So you really would not be able to feasibly develop something. So we did enhanced landscaping in the front to make up for reducing this setback. The other one would be the removal of the amenities. The amenities under the MFR 14 are specific requirements in there, mainly oriented towards your traditional apartment style use. So traditional apartments, you basically have a small balcony and that's it for open space. So that's why a tot lot would be required if you have more than 5 units so the kids have an actual area to play. These units provide their own private fenced rear yards for each unit. So that is one reason we do not think that this requirement would be required. The other one would be the gated entry. As these each have their own individual access points and not a shared driveway or shared parking area that's not attached to the homes or there's no garages. It also doesn't flow with the shape of the lot. We wouldn't be able to allow a shared access alley. We did look in that configuration. It just didn't work. So we're also, with keeping with the single-family kind of look of the neighborhood, we don't think a gated entry would be required either. This kind of breaks down that variance a little bit. So you'll see between the porch and the actual property line is 4.5 feet. But if we were to measure from the porch to the actual street, it is 14.5 feet. So there is some additional room. It's not right on the street. And we are doing tiered landscaping, so low ground covers, flowers, up to shrubs, up to trees to try to enhance that small section that we do have. And then also for the rear yards, you can see in the blue area, every unit has their own completely fenced-in backyard, so there is really no reason to have a dedicated playground area, as each unit will have its own dedicated rear yard. Overall, staff recommendation is to adopt resolution number 2112, finding that the project is categorically exempt from SECRA pursuant to section 15332, class 32 infill development, and approving development plan review 21-00012 and variance 21-05196 based on the findings contained in the resolution and attached exhibits and conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. Avino is also here as well, the applicant for Nova Homes, if you have any questions for him. And that concludes my presentations, and I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well put together. Any questions now, discussion with city staff? You can start on either end.
Yeah, I'll start
Commissioner
off.
Lopez.
It's Commissioner Lopez. My first question is, what exactly was the reason for the 15-foot setback? Was that a safety issue or?
So traditionally, I believe that the lots, the minimum depth per the code is 80 feet deep. So this lot is 50 feet. So most lots would have that additional 30 feet of width to accommodate that 15. And that's just so that the developments do have a front yard. So the houses aren't always super close to the street. But when this was, when they did the parcel map for this back in the day, for some reason they made this lot very narrow. And there really just is no way to really accommodate development without having to try to reduce the front setback.
And do you know if there's currently any residents that have that exemption and that are closer than 15 feet?
I know there are some, but I don't know the exact measurements. But typically, we try to keep it around 10. In this situation, we could have pushed the house a little bit more towards the rear, but we wanted to keep the rear backyard, and then we also wanted to keep the privacy for the houses that are existing.
So it's not rare for it to happen. It does happen.
It does happen in situations where the lots are this
Yeah.
constrained. Yeah.
Okay. Another question was, I noticed that there's no trash enclosure. Is each one gonna have an individual trash bin?
Yes. So if I actually go here, so I have the site plan. If you actually look in the bottom right or bottom left, you see where the two cars are. Directly above that, there's two squares. So that would be where the trash cans would be.
Oh,
So each
okay.
unit would have its own two trash cans like a traditional house.
Okay, got you. And then the street Medical Center Drive, is it wide enough to include parking too? Or is it just one?
I
the single
believe
lane?
there is enough room to accommodate on-street parking. Yes, so you would be able to park on the street and along the curb if needed. But we also did include that additional one spot per unit, so you could have 3 parking spaces.
Okay. Yeah. And my final question, this could go out to the applicant as well. If they're willing to add solar panels to this project?
Yes, so per the building code, the current building code, all new residential will be required to have solar.
Okay.
So we did run that by, and that would be a requirement.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Whoever wants to go.
Okay. Ryan, the rear patio in the diagram that you showed us on screen, it looked like there were some trees and shrubbery in the back. Do you know what the applicant wishes to put in the back patio area, or is it going to be turf, or is it going to be astroturf, or is it going to be nothing? What's the intention of back patio, or is it going to be even concrete?
I don't think we have the formal landscaping plans that would be done after this. In the current situation, it's just shown as turf, but I believe we would be open to, working to see about drought tolerance and maybe not including direct turf. We did want to include trees there to also help screen against the existing homes to the east. But in terms of what material would be there, it hasn't been 100% decided as of this time.
And second question, then I'm sure the applicant can answer it for us. If they do have landscaping in that back area, who will be maintaining it? That's a question for the applicant. Follow-up question is, that back CMU wall on the eastern side of the property line, there's also a planter that's at a lower level. Where does the property line hit? Is it in front of that planter, or is it at the higher 8 or 9 foot high wall?
I believe, and the applicant might be able to confirm, but I believe it actually would run between the retaining and then the additional wall. So that little ledge, I believe, would be within their property area. So I believe they would maintain that, but I would like to defer to the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Commissioner Jimenez, that was my question too, because it looks like there's a existing 8-foot decorative wall, and then the new one seems to be a little bit further up. So I wanted to know if there was a gap in between both block walls. So would it be like a double block wall, where there'd be a gap in between?
Yeah, so on this diagram here where the yellow line is, that is the existing wall. So they're not proposing to do a new wall along the east. So they would be utilizing this wall here that you see. So that would be remaining. I believe that little ledge you can see, it's basically a retaining wall. Then there's a little shelf where you could put landscaping, and then it goes up to the additional wall. I believe that shelf was within their project site as well. So they would obviously maintain that. But there's no additional fencing proposed along the eastern boundary.
I did see a diagram that perhaps that property line was in front
In
of
front
the
of it,
planter.
right?
But we'll wait for the applicant.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
because I noticed the same things, and almost every single one has like double lines, like existing and new, existing, new. So we'll ask the applicant. Thank you.
Commissioner Gomez.
I do have a question. The existing backyard or space, my first question is, do we know if these are going to be townhomes for sale or rentals? Do we know yet?
So they're going to be rentals. They're going to maintain ownership of the entire parcel.
All
It's
of
one
the
parcel and all units, and they're going to rent them out individually.
Is there going to be an office space on the grounds at all?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay. Thank you. So the private space that they're going to have in the back, 150 square feet, what's the minimum requirement for a tot lot size?
I don't believe it's specified in the code in terms of the sizing. I believe it just specifies a tot lot. I don't know.
I'm just trying to
And then also just for clarification.
justify the 150.
Yeah, so 150 is the minimum rear yard, but they're proposing 320. And then also the two homes, the single-family homes on the sides are going to have upwards of 1,000 area of backyard on the two corners. It's just the duplex ones that have roughly 320 square feet within the confines of the backyard. But they still will have with that vehicle parks, and they still have the driveway if kids are riding their bikes or whatnot, playing with chalk, that kind of stuff. So they do have additional area, but in terms of fenced, dedicated private backyard, it's roughly 320 up to 1,000 square feet.
What's this, since you mentioned the playfulness, the area that could be used for bike riding, it's probably already on here. What's the distance between the back wall and the entrance of the driveway? Not the existing sidewalk, but the entrance of the driveway.
Oh, you mean for the driveway from the directly where the red squares would be?
Because my concern is just that how close it is to the main street, and then there's no fencing as well, right?
Correct. But the distance between the driveways, where the red rectangles would be, the minimum is 65 feet between driveways.
I'm just having that.
Can you, Commissioner Gomez, are you talking about with the red box to the yellow line, the wall?
Yes.
So
I
that
believe-
would be roughly 50 feet.
Okay. Okay, so at some point I heard 150, but you said you corrected me, you said it's 300, 350 square feet? I'm sorry,
Yes,
I'm going back
yes.
I'm going back and forth. Just, let me tell you why, I know I think differently, because I'm special. My just concern is that if these are single-family homes, I'm assuming there's maybe children And the concern is how close is it to the street?
Yeah,
And
another
no gate.
another thing to mention in regard to that is that community service did require that a bike lane be created within the street there. So there will also be that additional buffer where vehicles won't be driving right up along that curb. I don't think the kids necessarily would utilize the bike lane, but it does give that additional buffer. I believe there's an existing bike lane. It's kind of hard to see in this image, but in the back where the red vehicle is, you can see there's an additional stripe there. That stripe will be continued all the way along the front of these buildings as well.
Was there a discussion with the applicant regarding putting up a fence?
We originally discussed it. It gets a little difficult because the buildings are so close to the front setback. It'd be kind of difficult to accommodate a fence without everything seeing kind of jammed in there. And trying to keep the look of the neighborhood as single-family oriented as possible, so it blends in. It doesn't kind of stand out. That's something we could potentially look into, but we would only have 4 feet between the house and the gate, so it wouldn't provide too much area.
If I could just add real quickly, to put a gate, when a car goes into the garage, you kind of need that buffer area so you can't really put the gate. So the thinking behind it is that every unit here has a private open space to the rear. So I think Ryan mentioned that for all the duplex units 2, 3, 4, and 5, those have approximately 320 square feet of private yard space that's out of the driveway area to the rear. And so that would be effectively double the size of a typical apartment, a private open space. And so that's how we were trying to accommodate people who might have children who want to live in this type of unit.
Okay, so just to confirm then, I do see that each unit has its own entrance, so that each one has a gate to their backyard and out.
Correct.
So it can be secured.
Correct. They have an entry gate, and they also have the entry from the house to the rear of the yard as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Shavy?
This is a question for city engineer. Medical Center Drive is what level of road?
The roadway classification?
Yes.
I don't have that offhand. I'll measure it. I think so. 1 sec.
Secondary.
I guess my question is kind of how much traffic is expected along that road?
Medical Center Drive is actually collector, 60/40. 60 full width right away, 40 curb to curb. And that's, it's not a general plan roadway, Medical Center Drive. And it's not a general plan roadway for, it doesn't have a specific designation, so it's a residential collector, which is a 60/40.
Is there a amount of traffic that is expected along that road?
I don't have any volume or level of service at this time to respond to your question.
Thank you.
Oh, Commissioner Ramirez?
I have one more question, Ryan. I noticed in one of the pictures from the elevation where you're looking at the actual land, there was an electrical component box on the floor. Do you know if that needs to be removed or replaced or transferred somewhere else?
I remember from our ad hoc meeting, we
Yeah.
did discuss that. I'm not sure. I know the applicant reached out to Edison to find out the answer, but I don't know. I
Okay.
believe it was being relocated or undergrounded, but
Okay.
they'll be able to confirm.
Okay, just because the plans didn't change from ad hoc, so, and I didn't hear what happened with that, and I didn't say anything. Well, thank you.
Okay. Just briefly, I think, having gone over that, so I noticed some things. One of the things is already brought up, that back wall, which looks pretty bad. But then you have a subwall. So again, that maintenance or whatever, that's going to be responsibility of the person renting it or possibility of the owner of the property. That's one of those considerations because it's pretty light. Second thing, the soil composition there is not level. So you're going to have soil impact, compaction of some manner because it floats down in, and that could be a water issue. So I'm assuming that they're going to have compact soil for the engineer. It is definitely not level. And that's, it can be bad, but if it doesn't rain that much, we're in a drought. So, but it's one of those things that's got to level out. I think that's one of the things I was concerned with. Also, the street, and I do ride my bicycle over there occasionally, so I'm pretty aware it's not that much traffic on that street. One of the things, too, on the east portion, and if you go to the east view, you'll see it. The portion that's adjacent to this proposed property is at the street level. The property across it, the street on the other side is not. So you're literally down the center of the street, it breaks off and goes down. It's a matter of who's going to do that repair work. It's not going to be cheap. But the idea is the street level has to be brought up. I think you talked about the fact it has to be capped on the other side. But right now, that street is pretty bad condition, but it does slope off down the center. That's one of those things that have to be leveled off. And I had a developer in my area that took several years to get it level. And we'll go into that. But it's one of those things where it needs to be leveled off, and it's just not level there. Actually, when you have a sidewalk, you have what's kind of a little lip, and whatever the term is for engineering. And that little lip is like another concrete piece that connects to the sidewalk. But then the street is supposed to connect to that level. So the other side seems to be there. So there got to be some repairs in that street to even make it worth going into. There is a fire hydrant on the southern portion, and there's nothing on the north, but it's off on the other side of that other development. So I'm assuming that the fire department has gone through that, but there is one fire hydrant. You can even see it here. It's on the southern end near Flame Road. And that's it. So I'm not sure if that's something, we'd have to go look at the fire department requirements in terms of that. But it's just that one that's there. It was there a long time. So I guess the question is, they will be required, obviously, to do the street repairs according to engineering conditions, but not required to do the other side of the street to level it off. So is that what I'm really gathering?
If I may,
Yeah.
Commissioner Hammond, the development to the west, Pacific Communities
Yeah.
Development, they're conditioned to provide. It's a wearing course that hasn't been applied yet, and they're required to do some improvements on Orange also. So those have not yet been completed,
Okay.
but it's a requirement of that development to the west.
Okay. Normally, I'm not sure it was in the engineering condition that we normally would say that this developer, if it was approved, would be required to do half width the street, but we're kind of just saying the whole street. So should we look at that wording, or should we maintain? Because we're just kind of saying the whole street, but in essence, we're only talking about the normal language, which is half width.
Typically, it's half width plus a lane. That's correct. And during, of course, during construction, there may be damage to the improvements.
Yeah.
So at that time, we evaluate the state of the roadway, and then the developer would be required to make provisions to bring it up to standards.
Okay.
And it would be about minimum half plus a lane.
Okay. So I'm wondering, should we have that wording in there, or should we?
If you wish to specify, we can add a condition to
Okay.
that effect,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, and I won't be long. Number 14, he had mentioned, and Rooftop Solar. I think it's not it's whether or not the project developer wants to do it. There's not an option. So obviously, this project will be required to meet the requirements of California Building Code. I don't even think there's a need for the other sentence. Whether they propose to do it or not, it doesn't matter. You have to do it. So I think we should just take out that first part of that sentence. The project will be required because the state requires it in the California Building Code. So that's number 14. And then number 17 says the city engineering. Obviously, it was not pending. So I think it's, what is it, May 10th? The city engineering report. The date on the city engineering report was May 10th? I'd have to look at it.
I'm sorry, what's?
I think the engineering condition of approval was dated May 10th, right? I hate to have to try to find it.
I know.
And we just say pending in this one. So I think the reference should be to May 10th, 2020. Okay, so just substitute the word pending for pending to May
on the
10th,
staff report?
2022. Number 17 in the conditions of approval.
Okay, we'll note that as before we make a final decision.
Okay. I'm a nitpicker, guys. After 20 years, I just nitpick. Okay. Okay, I think that was it for me for the time being. Was there anything else from?
I noticed in the chief of police or the fire marshal's review, it just says that, see, I don't like to scroll. They are to install all fire hydrants prior to something or other. See, no, I don't know where it's at. Prior to construction, do we know if there was any wording that they do need to install more, or was that one enough? Because it just says need to be installed before, but it doesn't specify 1, 2, 3, or additional.
So how that would work is that the fire reviewer will have a set fire flow requirement.
I saw that, 1,000
And they will
plus
test the adjacent hydrants to see if it has enough flow. And then depending if it has enough flow to reach each house, they could be required to install additional hydrants.
Okay.
But trying to get the fire flow set up with EMWD does take some time. So sometimes instead of waiting months and months to get that set up, he'll just condition that. And at that time, when that's done, is when they'll determine if an additional hydrant or additional hydrants would be required.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm through unless someone else has. Okay. Thank you very much. He's doing triple duty here, right? Jeez. At this time, we'd like to open it up for public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. It's been 4 weeks. What can I say? Does the applicant have a presentation? Thank you. At this time, just state, I got to get back in the swing of it, guys. Okay. So if you just state your full name and spell your last name for us.
Yes. My name is Ivano Stamegna, Ivano, Stamegna, Stamegna. Good evening to you all. I really don't have much to say other than Ryan pretty much touched on everything. I'm here, if you have any questions for me, I'm here to answer them. And that's all I can say.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, or whatever way you want to go, if you have
I would
questions.
say minimum half.
I just have one question.
Commissioner Scheidman.
That slower patio on the east side, is that your property or is it the other parcel? Where's the property line? Where does it fall?
I believe our property, it's to the property line. It's to the
Fence?
wall, the big wall, not the lower wall.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're going to use that lower wall for, a planter type of thing in the backyard.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anyone else?
That was my question.
Okay. Oh, Commissioner Scheidman.
I do have one follow-up.
Okay.
What do you plan on doing with the patio? Are you planning on landscaping?
We'll work with the with staff. Whatever staff wants me to do, we'll do, basically. But we are planning to landscape. Yes, we want to give the tenant a place for are a nice area.
So if you do landscaping, are you going to be maintaining it because it's in a private patio?
When you rent the units, it's hard for you to invade on the privacy of the tenant. We're going to ask the tenants to maintain that. But if they don't maintain it, then we'll be forced to maintain it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
No questions? No questions? This is shocking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Oh, okay. I'm just in awe. It's only 2 questions. They must be. Anyway, at this time, we want to open up for public comment via Zoom or via those that are in the audience. So for IT, if you can even hear me, are there any persons on the Zoom?
Yes, Chairman Hammond.
Okay.
We have a Cynthia Asensio.
Okay,
Your mic is unmuted and you have the floor, ma'am.
okay.
Hello, I am contacting you guys. This is new for me, so bear with me. I live on Firebrand, which my property line backs into what would be the new construction. I humbly ask you guys to not approve this for several reasons. As previously stated, that back wall, unfortunately, is not in the best shape. My concern is that during construction, that wall may not be standing or some damage would happen. Again, that's not just my property, that's every single neighbor. Also, there are already multiple cracks. So the integrity of that wall is not the best. It's not great. I think one of you mentioned that earlier. Another thing that you guys already brought up was traffic. Somebody mentioned that they ride the bike through there and there's not too much traffic. I beg to differ. I live here. There are speeding cars. There are cars that blow the stop sign, which is Medical Center and Flame. Below the stop sign on Medical Center and Orange. That's a safety hazard if we're adding more traffic. Those driveways, the cars are going to come out of there. That's a safety hazard. The parking into the street is an even bigger hazard. Medical Center has also Kindred Hospital that's only not too far down. We haven't addressed that at all. Kindred Hospital right now, due to COVID over the last 2 years, parking has been less of an issue. But when they go back, parking was a significant issue when visitors weren't limited at Kindred Hospital. We also have the new development that was built. That's created a lot of new traffic because it's a very many units that were built. And I think somebody said it was zoned for multifamily. However, they are detached homes. So they are asking to put multifamily units in an area that is single family homes. Also, the property is right between Flame and Orange. Flame feeds many neighborhood streets. Orange, again, also feeds many neighborhood streets and also feeds an elementary school and a high school. Another thing is parking. Parking is very limited. They are offering very limited parking because there is very limited space. We already have an issue with parking. Code enforcement has been around here recently this week for that issue. They've been knocking on my door asking whose car is there.
Oh, okay, if you could sum it up for us, because the speaker time is running out, so kind of sum it up.
Privacy, it's 2-story homes. I've looked at the new homes across the street, and I can clearly see into my backyard. Having a 2-story home behind me, it's going to impede on my privacy, and I honestly don't want my wall used. I would like, before a decision is made, that traffic be evaluated, that we really look at what we're getting into. Should we build these homes on very limited space? And I think that that's already been brought up several times.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Hammond, we have one more. This one's from Alana Salazar. You
Okay.
have the floor, miss.
You there?
Oh,
Okay.
I'm currently one of the homeowners adjacent to the property you guys are looking to build on. As the young lady was saying, there are cracks on the retaining wall. It's gotten worse over the last 12 years that I've lived here. So the blocks have slowly on my side began to come off, which is a concern because if you guys begin to start excavating, it could potentially weaken the wall more than it is now. And that leaves current homeowners with the burden to repair and replace. Yes, traffic is a major concern in this area. Numerous cars do speed and blow stop signs. There has been multiple accidents on the corner of Medical Center Drive and Orange, Medical Center Drive and Flame, due to cars speeding and blowing stop signs. Also, we do have the traffic from the hospital and from the school and from the park down the street. A lot of people use Medical Center Drive to cut through and also use Flame to cut through as a shortcut. I don't see 6 houses being feasible in this area. It would be adding more traffic. Also, someone did bring up the concern of families living in these residential homes that have children. That's a hazard. I mean, I wouldn't want my child playing out on the street where there's cars that are constantly speeding. So the issue of privacy is also another. The new home developments from Pacific communities, I've looked at and I can clearly see into my backyard. So a house that's being built right behind me, it would be invading my privacy. So if you guys could please, address these issues. These are things that do need to be discussed before any planning begins. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Was there anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay. Was there anyone from the audience that would like to come forward at this time on this particular project? Okay. And we didn't have any sheets, right? Okay. Okay.
Mr. Hammond, I just want to address one thing regarding the comments about the wall that's adjacent to the homeowners to the east. Those walls belong to those property owners, so just from a maintenance standpoint, in theory, they should be repairing those walls if there's a damage, but we can, if you want to bring it up to the applicant that they would work and fix the wall as part of their project, that's one way to address it and to work with the applicant to install some trees. I'm just throwing out some things that you can consider and ask the applicant. I know that the landscaping they're more than willing to do, but we can ask them regarding fixing the wall because that's not on their property, but if they're willing to take on that responsibility because that's a wall that doesn't necessarily belong to them.
Okay. So at this time, if the commission would like, we can close the public comment and reopen the public hearing for the applicant if they have to respond.
Mr. If I may, the public hearing is already open, so at this time it would just be an opportunity for the applicant
to speak. Okay.
rebut. Yes.
If you'd like to speak.
If we have to, we will definitely improve if the structural integrity of the wall is failing. We will try to improve it. It's not going to be worse. We will definitely improve it. But I was not aware for what they're saying. But for our own sake, we would, because we'll be our wall as well, we will improve it. I'm not saying that we will tear it down and put a new wall, but we will definitely improve it. If we'll work with them. Let's put it this way. I'll definitely be better than what we find.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
ask a question. I'd like to ask
Yeah,
the
she asked a
staff a
question?
question, if it's okay.
At this point, it's just allowing the applicant to respond to any of the public comment, and then if the commission has any questions for staff, informational, factual questions for staff, at that point, we would do that after we close the public hearing.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
So, well, right now we're at the point where we already had we had closed the public hearing, so we should go to the commission. And the commission discussion, questions, and I guess you can still bring up issues. This is our discussion. So whoever would like to start first.
I'd like to start. Commissioner
Commissioner
Gomez. Being that we heard a concern regarding the integrity of the wall, as it stands now, who is responsible for any repairs to that wall?
At the current situation, it would be those property owners because that's part of their rear yard property wall.
Okay. And who is, how can we determine the integrity of the wall as it stands now, if it does need repairing?
We could put in a condition for that should be investigated as part of the construction drawings and then determine the integrity of the wall, and we could add in the condition either to make necessary repairs or ask the applicant to put a new wall. I think they're open to
Repairing
it necessary, replacing the whole wall.
Yes. My understanding is that we're bringing in a new construction to this area, and we want to improve the area. And I think it's a valid point to mention that these homes are over 20 years old, I believe, so I believe that wall may be as well. Is it true that this wall is on the property line or not?
The best we can determine at this time is that the tall wall is at the property line. I can't confirm at this point whether that low retaining wall belongs to that property owner too.
Okay.
So I can't confirm that now. If it was on the applicant's property, they might have created an easement at some point in time. So, but
Yeah, because as it stands, for example, my block wall behind my home, I believe the block walls were told and the fencing are on the property line. So it would be nice if we could take a look at that. And yes, I do agree with the condition to replace the wall if it is suffering integrity issues. If there are cracks identified and it is crumbling and does need to be replaced. And I would advocate to have the entire wall replaced. That would be my, I would advise that would be entered as well.
Okay. Anyone else? It's discussion now.
Question for staff. With the medical center being where it's located, there's an additional road that can be entered and get along Citrus, I believe it is, that can have access along with Lemon Street. Is there a possibility to put a speed bump or traffic mitigation?
To have street bumps, it would have to go through
Rumble
certain
strips.
criteria. And typically on these roadways, we have to analyze it, see if it's applicable. So,
stop sign here.
four-way stop. And then to have a stop sign at that location, a four-way stop, we have to do a warrant analysis in order to see if it's warranted for a four-way stop.
Right now, it's only a two-way stop.
It's
one
only on
into the
Flame,
New Pacific
correct.
Homes and one on Flame Ave.
That's right.
Yeah,
We can condition the development
condition
to
an
analyze the
investigation,
intersection.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I have No questions, no remaining questions for staff.
Discussion. Commissioner Jimenez?
I would like to warn that, I know they brought up, our two speakers brought up very valid issues with speeding cars and they're blowing a stop sign, so I don't know how much adding another stop would help, but I think it's also kind of a code enforcement problem, just to make sure, because if they have code enforcement knocking on their doors and, police, some patrolling, because we've had a lot of accidents there because people are blowing, the yard. And the fencing, I'm a little bit conflicted about, because, and I would like my colleagues to share, if I buy a house and my fence is old, I know it's my responsibility. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, can we analyze the integrity of it now? And if there is a negative impact because of the construction, and I know there'll be heavy vehicles there'll be equipment that's going to be moving stuff, can we analyze the integrity of the fencing as we move along, and just to make sure, because, or somehow, I think with the beautiful new development and your backyard, you have a beautiful backyard too. So this is where I'm conflicted, where if you have a brand new development, your side brick walls are beautiful and then your back walls are not beautiful. It kind of also goes against the integrity of these beautiful developments. So I'm a little bit conflicted, because if I'm the homeowner, it's on my property, I have to fix it. But as a new developer too, if I was developing something beautiful and I'm adding all these extra pieces, I don't know if it'd be possible just to keep analyzing the integrity or having a time frame, because I know sometimes things shatter and move, or move and shift. So we may not see damage to the integrity of the walls immediately, but it might be over time because we've moved the dirt, we've had all that. So can we add a time frame to something like that? I'm okay with adding where the applicant replaces it all. I don't know how much brick wall cost, but it would, I think, enhance the property.
I think we can probably, if the planning commission desires to have an assessment before they start construction and have an assessment after the construction, so that way we know the condition of the wall in the first place.
Can we do an assessment after and then a certain period after again, just to see? And I think too, it would be my worry, because this is a little bit lower, where if the brick wall does crumble, it's going to crumble onto the backyards of this development.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in the best interest of both his development and his renters at the end of the day that they don't have to deal with a crumbling wall. So I leave it to the discretion of the planning commission to decide what is appropriate here. I think it's appropriate to assess the wall, knowing that there's concern by residents saying that it's crumbling. We should make that assessment like prior to grading permit, and then maybe having another assessment later on to make sure that it's a stable wall even post-construction.
Okay. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but, I agree, there is a lot of traffic, people take shortcuts on those streets, but I think nowadays it's kind of hard not to. It's a busy area, there's a hospital, there's a park, there's a school. So I think those are things that we really can't resolve as a planning commission, because those are out of our scope. Beautiful
Unless-
development. I
Unless
mean,
the owner who's going to lease or rent these properties. Because I know there's 2-car garage, and then there's a third there's a
Per
third
guest.
outside per guest. But who's to say that the garage will be used for parking?
They may be parking on the street, right?
So, in that case, it would be up to management to enforce, thank you, to enforce and make sure that the property is being used as such. And we don't know if they have a limited of cars per dwelling, renter, or not, but I think that's also something that should be considered. I mean.
I don't know if they can. I'm just thinking
how
about my
can we-
neighbors.
Right, well, how
Yeah.
will we know? And so,
Yeah, because I'm thinking about my neighbors. They
I'm
have
sure the
garage and
neighbors-
driveways, and they were parking on the street. So-
exactly. And just to point out really quick, because I know Commissioner Shively has
Is
a
dying to.
comment. Just for, to address the comment about privacy,
Yes.
yes, Pacific, we've gone in there and we can see outside. However, this will provide a block from those homes directly into these homes' backyard, the single homes, the single-story homes. And we also addressed the issue of privacy during the presentation.
With the higher windows.
With the higher windows. So these windows that will be facing the homeowners will not have open, long windows. It's going to have high windows, so the view is not going to be there unless, you know.
You climb on something
unless
super
you
tall.
climb on something.
That would take effort.
Or the sink or whatever. So I'd like that to be known, because that was addressed, and maybe it just didn't come off as such. And I believe it's the west is, the sun is going to set on the west, and so you're going to have a shade in the afternoon from that building as well. So I think that would help also, in a way. That's a positive that I see, and that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, Commissioner Shively.
So, yes, I do. They are definitely addressing the visibility of the second floor upon the rear neighbors, one with the high windows, and secondly, they're looking to put some additional landscaping up on that back side. On the issue with the fence and the constructability or the condition of the fence, if that CMU wall has been there for approximately 20 years, that this fence, it deteriorated. It's either got sprinkler and efflorescence on the CMU wall, that again, it deteriorates it itself because of the mineral, the fluoride in the water causes that. But if the current owners of those properties, and there's cracks in the walls, I don't understand maybe why it's a burden for a new tenant or a new owner that's going to be utilizing a wall to bear the full entire expense of putting a new wall up or repairing the wall in its entirety on their own dime, when the current residents of those back areas have a chance to fix their backyard and rear yard. I do agree with there should be some study done on the condition of the wall. And if the applicant causes any additional damage to the wall during the time of construction, then it should be his responsibility to repair it. And that would be at his expense and not the expense of the rear neighbor. But I don't agree with having the applicant bear the entire cost for this wall. Especially when the neighbors, again, have been living there, or maybe they just recently purchased the home, and if they purchased the home, they have a home inspector to visualize what the condition of the wall is in the backyard, and they have a home inspection report that gives you the condition of the wall. So they know what the wall condition is, and they shouldn't have to, they shouldn't be forcing additional cost on the applicant at this time. But the buildings themselves, as we looked, they were nice when we saw them during our first meeting, and they're still nice as what they are now. You addressed some of our comments as well as from the ad hoc meeting. Again, that space there, it's a small confined space. You can't just put another residence there. You can't have the setbacks. You have the same issues. Again, it's either going to be a unit that can be purchased from somebody else, or it can be a unit that can be rented from somebody else. If they're renting, then they can control some aspects of privacy and issues with the wall. Now, if I would like to additionally probably put a condition of approval in there that is, nothing can be supported on the wall on the applicant's side, attached or fixed to the wall. That maybe might help as well. And then I would like to have a condition in there about the study for the speed bump, to see if it works, or rumble strips, or domes or something like that. Perhaps it can be done.
Mr. Lopez.
This is Commissioner Lopez. I also agree with the concerns that were brought up from the landowners of the adjacent property. I'm also open to adding a condition to review the integrity of the wall before and after the development. I feel like that's probably the best way to go at it. Also, I do understand that this is a very tricky land that we're working with. I do give my respects to the applicant for really considering the amount of space that you have and trying to still accommodate the renters that you're going to have and trying to give them the closest thing to having an actual home. Also, I also want to include that the land is a zone for multifamily residential, and this is a multifamily residential project. So in my eyes, it does check out. Thank you.
Okay. And lastly, not to continue to prolong, I promise. I agree with everything that's said. I think one of the things too, I like this project. I think I've been in Paris a long time, so probably more than most people here. And there was this dirt track, and I always wondered what would happen to that little strip. Would it just be an extension of parking from somebody else? So I'm talking about 1990s. Okay, so I don't even know what the people calling in and go back that. But I remember that just being dirt strip. I'm going, why wouldn't the other property just do that? I don't need to know all the ramifications of that, but that strip is part of the MFR 14, which means you're going to have either not putting 20 apartment buildings and squeezing them in. So that's why you need variances, because you're not going to have the setbacks you normally would have. I think the issue. I have some suggestions too. Not only the fact is that I talked about earlier about changing some of the 14 number 17. It might be advantageous, and I'm going to this is getting into more detail. In the engineering conditions, you're adding in the sense that, just like you said, the existing pavement on Orange Avenue, the existing wall, and you'd add that directive, say the existing wall, if it's analyzed, would be subject to such and such. The person's already agreed that they would try to make some corrections there. There are cracks. I saw the cracks in the wall, and I kind of wondered about that, but again, it's part of that firebrand. So wording to the effect in one of those engineering conditions could be the effect that looking at the existing wall, making the assessment studies, and that would be a determination before any final certificate of occupancy. And also, I think that would probably help, because that means prior to anything final, you'd have to look at the integrity of the wall. And based on the integrity of the wall, this is before signing off. Just like the street has to be done on the other side before you sign off, you're looking at the wall as an indent. That would be an added condition. So you're making the determination and putting it in writing. Because we can talk all day, but unless you put it in writing and say, this is prior to signing off this project, you have to determine the structure of the wall before you even get to the next level. Just like the street determination. You have to determine there's cracks in the street. You're going to have to make repairs to the street. You look at the wall, and that's something that they're willing to do. So if they're willing to make corrections in the wall, it might be pretty much a heavy-duty expense to put an 8-foot block wall. But I think that's one of the things at the very minimum. And then if it's determined that you need a wall, that's another discussion. Okay, but at least at the very least, that the integrity of the wall could be determined, and there are ways to do that. But that wall has probably been there 12, 13, at least several years, probably back in the early 2000s. So when I bought my house, so I bought mine like 2000. Well, I moved over there, and I left in 2007. I don't even think anything was built over there until after in that time period. So it's pretty long. But that would be my suggestion, that determination can be at that time and assess it, and then you can make a determination to how the structural integrity of that wall. So if that's added, I think that would make more sense. Obviously, you can't put houses there. You can't do, all the things that they do across the street. This is a design that's put in for that little space, and you have to have the variances to do that. You're not talking about adding a lot of people. Okay, and I'm not sure, I think it's 1.5. I think the city was determining in terms of parking spaces. Is it 1.5 or 2 now for apartments and things of that nature? 2? It's 2? Yeah, so they're talking 3, right? Okay, now we know what people use for garage. We stuff everything in the garage as a storage area. But nevertheless, 2, and we're talking 3 spaces. Okay, so what they do with it, that's their business, but the idea is that that has been accommodated for. Obviously, there are going to be people parking on the street. I got a house next to me, and there's 8 cars on the street. Okay, got a 3-car garage, and 8 of the cars are on the street. Explain that one. But that's just the norm of the way things happen. So I think only thing I would say with that determination of the wall, and I did see that crack and wall, that is a concern. Because the heavy-duty stuff there will probably start bringing more crack. You don't want to add to it by putting this in there, and then once they get in there, then we just fluff it off. I think prior to any signing off, that wall needs to be for structural soundness as an engineering condition. And I think that would be something, to me, would be fair to the developer to take a look at. And then working with staff, I don't need to see it, but working with staff for that determination. Okay. So that would maybe number 18.
Are you trying to say that applicant should be solely responsible for
Well, they said that they might make repairs. They've already
repairs?
stated that. So if you do the assessment, first you talk with the assessment to determine. You can't do it unless you do the assessment. It's like speed bumps.
So if the assessment says the wall needs to be completely,
That would
Torn
be a
up and done.
determination then. Now, you can put that language to the effect.
should he be fully responsible to pay for it all?
That, I don't think we can say that. You could if you want them to pay for it, but what if he finds that it's not? And you say that you have to pay for it, and say they don't have to. So now you've stuck them into the condition. That's why you have the condition to determine it and make the determination. You're an engineer, you know determination whether the wall could do it.
Yeah, that can be stipulated in the conditions, and it would be, they can assess the structure integrity of the wall prior to issuance of the grading permit. And our building and safety department would
Right.
have to review that.
Right.
But that wall is not on their property.
Mhm.
But they already stated they were on the
I
record.
know they
I know.
would, but
I know. Anyway, at least you put they have the assessment has to be made.
I'm perfectly fine with the assessment of before and after, but I think something needs to be worked out between the adjacent owners and the applicant if any, whatever costs need to be done.
I would make another suggestion if you are open to this. Let's say if the wall had to be replaced and the house would be screening that back area to potentially save some costs, and because it's not a visible wall, it could be a vinyl wall. That's one way to meet somewhere halfway, but I just want to throw that out there.
They tend to be 6 feet, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
because
that's,
typically the wall is, we typically ask for it in a project that's adjacent to the street, but if it's an interior wall, if you live in a residential community, if you're living between other properties, you can see the rear yard is typically vinyl fence.
Yeah.
And so, and this would be a very similar situation where it's not a visible, like, property boundary that faces the street. And in those type of situations, we would typically allow vinyl wall to be placed. So I would throw, if in the event that the wall is structurally not sound, that there would be an open to replacement with a vinyl fence, and that would be kind of a halfway middle point. But I'm just throwing that out there for you to discuss and consider.
Well, that would be a 6 foot. They have an 8 foot right now, so
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
concerned about privacy, and that would give further visibility into their yards.
So the neighbors might have, their fence may be 6 feet, but on the applicant's side, it could be 8 feet because of elevation changes.
Because of elevation. I don't believe that the structure of, that a vinyl fence will withstand as much time either. They tend to crumble, especially in this area with the heat. But actually, listening to Vice Chair Shively, I understand where he's coming from. And it makes sense as a homeowner that if you already know that your wall is crumbling, and you already know that your wall needs to be repaired, that it's your responsibility if the wall is indeed the property owner's responsibility at this point. It makes sense to me. And it does, I think we should move forward with having the wall assessed for integrity. And as the applicant mentioned, he would be more than willing to help repair the wall, which would indeed cover the cost for the homeowner that they are responsible for. And I believe this is why we're here, because we're listening to the professional minds that are working here and are providing their experience and feedback, including our staff and the commissioners. And so I think that would be the best way to go, because it does make sense. I am a homeowner myself, and if that wall is my responsibility and it is crumbling, and I know it's crumbling, and I'm afraid that it's going to break, then it may be time for repairs. And if he's willing to repair, then I believe he's coming from a good place in order to meet you halfway.
I just want to clarify, I think he was willing to pay for repairs that are caused by, and not existing damage, but damage that may arise due to the construction.
Well, we would be saying, looking at the wall, period, and making an assessment irrespective of whether they caused it or not. That's why you have before and after. But if you don't put that wording in, you're going to have a problem.
Right.
So you need to assess it so you have the basic grounds for that person to not get a certificate of occupancy, not get it. If you don't put that in, you got a problem. So I think it's inevitable they have to assess it, but what professional assessment? You know, something their building and safety will determine the structure. Then at that point, they may determine this is just not sound, or they may determine just certain repairs. I'd rather go to professional because I'm not.
With the wording, as Vice Shively said, Vice Chair said, that there not be anything from, be laying up against it or being used. For example, if I want to put shade in the backyard, can't put it from one pole in that yard, attach it to that block wall. That's not your block wall. You can't use it for your own accommodation. So, I mean, that would, yeah.
Yeah, and my thought there is, if they're attaching something to that back wall, it can potentially cause additional damage in the future with drawing a hole or putting an anchor in that back wall. Could further reduce the integrity of the wall. I was kind of getting a thought that, doing the review of the integrity of the wall study, if there's damage on his side, he does repairs on his side, and if there's damage on the other side, then the homeowner should repair it. But the fact that if it's most likely it's not the block itself that is damaged, it's probably the grout between the joints is damaged. So it might be the grout itself needs to be taken out, removed, and replaced. That's kind of my estimate of what the damage could actually be. But I think that perhaps the applicant should repair the stuff on his side, or maybe the applicant can come to some agreement on both sides with both applicant and the current homeowners to resolve the issue itself. We're kind of being in the in-between to getting walls repaired and between two different parties.
Okay, anything else for the discussion? Okay. The staff had a comment, or?
Yeah, I thought I recalled the applicant being willing to make any repairs. So if I think since he said he's willing to do that, we can just kind of, if we can move. I think they're willing. At least I heard them willing to do that. I think we can just move forward with them doing unnecessary repairs. That addresses that comment.
Okay. Okay. Okay, with that, this is going to be a good one. Oh, boy. At this time, requested action is to adopt resolution number 22-12, recommending that the Planning Commission find the project exempt from SEQA pursuant to section 15332.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just to clarify, it's the adopt the resolution that would actually approve find the project exempt from CEQA and also approve the DPR and the variance as described instead of the recommending language.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'll say finding. Okay. Where was it? Do I need to read the rest of it?
I can read it if you want.
Okay. DPR 2.
So the motion would be to adopt resolution number 22-12, which finding the project exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15332, class 32 infill development, and approving DPR 21-00012 and variance 21-05196 based on the findings contained in the resolution and attached exhibits and conditions of approval. With, I believe were several amendments that you wanted to include as well. And
I can just summarize those. So one condition is no installation of anything on the easterly wall, first one. The second is for applicant to make any necessary, to do an analysis of the wall and to make all necessary repair prior to certificate of occupancy. For them to do a warrant analysis for a four-way stop at, I believe, Medical Center Drive and Flame, and to include potential speed bumps and traffic calming measures. To amend planning condition number 7 to remove reference to pending.
17.
17,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. For engineering in reference to pending. To amend planning condition number 4 in regards to
14.
solar because 14, sorry.
That's okay.
In regards to solar as it's already required. And to amend engineering condition number 15 in regards to street pavement, the pavement, and then the additional lane on the opposite side.
Right.
At a minimum.
Right.
And then I know that there was some discussion about, and I'm not sure you want to put in there, typically we do require landscaping for an apartment project for the rear, so you can choose to add a condition that, they will work with us to provide landscaping in the private rear yard, and so that would ensure that there be multiple layers of screening and privacy for the neighbors.
And just to clarify the change to condition 7, it's to remove pending and inserting the date of the engineering conditions, May 10th,
Right.
2022.
It was 17, right?
No, condition 17, but change
Right.
it to May 10th,
Right.
2022. Yes.
I'm glad you read it. And okay. That should be it, right? Okay. Motion? Moved by Commissioner Lopez, seconded by Commissioner Jimenez.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively,
Yes.
Chair Hammond.
Yes.
The vote of 5 yes, this motion passes.
And I think the commission is requesting a 5-minute recess. Okay. And we will reconvene in 5 minutes. This one. Okay. I gotta read. Got a lot of papers here. I thought he handed me a purple one.
Yeah. Hi there. Hi, Lars.
The Lars Anderson. Are you?
The Mike Nagar.
Yes.
You're going to bring up alternative two, aren't you?
We
Okay,
are.
good. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
thanks. And that you staff wants alternative two.
That's
Okay,
right.
good, good.
Yeah.
I want you.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it'll basically connect.
What was that? Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Guys, let's reconvene. Yeah, he's recused himself, so.
I'll
Oh, okay, I didn't know. Thank you very much for reconvening at 7:44 p.m. The City of Paris Planning Commission, May 18th, 2022. And I think we have, well, I'll leave it to you to say, if you have to recuse. Okay, but I mean, I don't even know if you can do. Okay. 7B, Specific Plan Amendment 19-05287 and Developmental Plan Review 19-00012. Proposal to amend the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan to change the zoning designation of approximately 15.66 acres located at the southwest corner of Ramona Expressway and Paris Boulevard from commercial to light industrial to facilitate development of a 347,918 square foot industrial building. Applicant PR Partners LLC. Requested action, adopt resolution number 22-13, recommending to the City Council denial of specific plan amendment 19-05287 and developmental plan review 19-00012 to rezone 15.66 acres from commercial to light industrial to facilitate development of a 347,918 square foot industrial building located at the southwest corner of Ramona Expressway and Paris Boulevard, based on the findings in the resolution. Okay. And at this time, do we have an ex parte communication, site visits, or anything to that effect?
Commissioner Hammond, I have to recuse myself on this project. I have some, related issues with finances.
You can hear you.
So I need to recuse myself on this project. I have adjacent project to the adjacent parcel.
How you doing?
Okay, so that's Commissioner Shively recusing himself.
Just Commissioner, just regarding the speaker, just because there's some technical difficulty with the public hearing, if we could just speak directly into the microphone, that will help the sound.
Like this?
Yeah.
You got it.
Like I do normally. Okay, okay.
This is Commissioner Jimenez. I drive by that site at least twice daily.
Commissioner Lopez, I have driven by the site as well.
Commissioner Gomez, this is definitely on my daily route.
Okay, and Commissioner Hammond, of course, I drove by the site, all around the site. Okay. And at this time, we have a presentation from the city staff. I also, prior to that, and I do this as a chairman, we have conditions of approval that were handed to us. I'm assuming these are substituting what we have currently.
Yes, there are
Okay.
updated conditions of approval.
Okay.
Just to kind of, although we're denying the project, we wanted to add a few conditions in the event that when it gets to council,
Okay.
for some reason, if there's a decision to approve, that these conditions would be in place. And in addition, there's a Golden State Alliance, and the planner will kind of walk you through those additional comments as part of the presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners and Chairman. The item before you is the Paris, Ramona, and Indian Specific Plan Amendment and Industrial Development Plan Review. Specifically, the applications required for this project are a specific plan amendment, that's SPA 19-05287, required to change the zoning designation within the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific zone specific plan from commercial to light industrial to allow the development of an industrial warehouse. Additionally, Development Plan Review 19-00012 is required for the development of and establishment of a non-refrigerated industrial warehouse totaling approximately 348,000 square feet. And an environmental impact report, State Clearinghouse number 202-105-0021, was prepared for the project and was able to mitigate all potential environmental impacts to less than significant. The project site is located on the southwest corner, or specifically the south side of Ramona Expressway between Indian Avenue and Paris Boulevard. The other three corners of that intersection are all commercially zoned as well, and they all have multiple commercial uses. Each of the corners is constructed or developed with a gas station, and then further out from the corners, you have various sit-down restaurants, cellular phone service, repair shops, ice cream shop. There's a dentist office, an urgent care facility, a glass tinting and stereo shop, and just a number of smaller retail commercial shops. The project site is currently entirely zoned for commercial use, and the project applicant is proposing to change the zoning of the entire site to an industrial, light industrial zoning designation to facilitate the development of an industrial warehouse. However, staff is recommending an alternate to that, which is defined in the project environmental impact report as alternative two. In this plan, the site would be changed, approximately 3/4 of the site would be changed to the light industrial zoning while keeping the commercial zoning along that Paris Boulevard corridor. To get into a little bit more detail on that, this specific site was reviewed by a special joint meeting of the City Council and Planning Commission back in 2019. It was noted that a significant portion of this site is located within the accident potential zone of the airport. And within that zoning designation, there are specific density restrictions that would severely limit the types of commercial uses that could even be developed there. And so it was determined that this would be a good location for a zone change to an industrial use. However, there is a portion of the site adjacent to Paris Boulevard that is within a less restrictive zone within the airport land use compatibility plan. And for that reason, and also because through various other meetings, staff has heard the commission as well as the council's intent to preserve Paris Boulevard, particularly this intersection at Paris and Ramona, as a commercial corridor. And so staff is recommending alternative 2 of the project EIR, which proposes a smaller industrial development of approximately 290,000 square feet, but would leave about a quarter of the site available for commercial uses along Paris Boulevard. The applicant has indicated that they are not supportive of alternative 2. However, depending on how the commission decides to recommend to the council, staff has developed some conditions for flexibility that would allow alternative 2 to be approved if that is the commission and the council's intent. Through just minor revisions that could be reviewed through an administrative development plan review and a parcel map to separate out the commercial from the industrial site. The project as proposed does meet all of the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan development standards. Also, alternative 2 would likely meet those standards, although those additional reviews, the administrative development review and the parcel map, would be required to actually determine code compliance for both the industrial site and the commercial use, whatever is proposed. This is the current elevation proposed by the applicant. Staff did work with the applicant quite a bit because this area is primarily a commercial corridor to make sure that we have, a building that, as large as it is, would look somewhat more like a commercial development. So we have some spandrel glass, non-vision glass, and some awnings, and some additional articulation and treatments on the building, as well as some enhanced landscaping that's proposed. And you can see that in a little bit more detail on this particular elevation. The floor plan, as you can see, will primarily be warehouse use. There will be a small office proposed at the southwest corner of Paris Boulevard and Ramona Expressway. For circulation in the plan, also you can see that a great deal of landscaping is proposed for the site. But to address circulation and access, both of the northerly access points would be restricted to passenger vehicles only. They would be full access, so right in, right out would be permitted at both of those northerly driveways. The southerly driveway on Indian Avenue would be restricted to trucks only. It would be in line with the driveway across Indian Avenue and would also be full access northbound and southbound, right in, right out. The driveway, the southerly driveway on Paris Boulevard would be conditioned to be gated with a Knox box and used only for emergency access, as Paris Boulevard is not a truck route. And we'll get into that more here. You can see this was the truck routes that were just became effective this year. So you can see right where the curve is there, that's basically our project site. That's Indian Avenue. So trucks would be able to access the freeway via Indian Avenue, either to Harley Knox or to Placentia when that interchange is completed. And truck access would be strictly prohibited on Paris Boulevard as well as Ramona Expressway. Again, I wanted to highlight the March Airport overlay map here. This orange corridor in the center is the high accident potential zone. You can see a majority of the project site is located within that zone. And then the C1 zone, which encompasses that entire intersection of Paris Boulevard and Ramona Expressway, is located in the C1 zone. There still are some density restrictions there, but not nearly as much as the accident potential zone. We wanted to highlight inconsistency with the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan visions and objectives. The PVCC specific plan notes that there should be a balance of land uses maintained to enhance the city's fiscal viability and economic diversity and environmental integrity. This project would significantly change the intersection of Ramona Expressway and Paris Boulevard as a primary commercial corridor within the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan. And it's of note that approximately 180 acres of land within the PVCC specific plan has already been rezoned from a mix of other land uses to light industrial. And so staff believes that the entire zone change of this site would create further imbalance of the land uses within the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan. During the public review period for the environmental impact report, there were 7 letters that were received. 3 of them were from Mitchell Sy on behalf of the Southwest Regional Council, that's not the Council of Governments, that would be the Carpenters Union. The first one was an opposition letter, the second one was a support letter, and then the third letter from Mitchell Sy was a support letter retracting their initial opposition letter. The fourth letter that was received was from Blum, Collins, and Ho on behalf of the Golden State Environmental Justice Alliance. The fifth letter was from Lozo Drury on behalf of the Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility. The sixth was actually an email from Mr. Adam Salcido, basically requesting notification project developments. And then the final letter that was received was from the Southern California Association of Governments, basically indicating that acknowledging the project and indicating that the project relatively meets the goals of the regional transportation plan. As stated previously, we did come up with conditions of approval if it is the commission and the council's intention to approve the project as proposed. And so on the conditions that you received, they should be in red font. That'll be condition 27, 28, and 29 respectively. These are for voluntary off-site tree planting or funding to promote the city's tree planting initiative, and would require the developer to plant 1 shade tree per 5,000 square feet of building size. Additionally, as stated in earlier in the presentation, Paris Boulevard, the southerly drive access on Paris Boulevard will be labeled as gated off and labeled as emergency access only with a Knox box for fire department access. And the RTA also noted that there's a bus stop, which has been planned for on the project site on the southeast corner of Ramona Expressway and Indian Avenue. So we just wanted to reiterate that and put that in the conditions. We just received on Monday evening an additional letter from the Golden State Environmental Justice Alliance. It was a relatively short letter, mostly reiterating some of the comments from their initial letter. A response to these comments was prepared that indicated that that the additional comments did not include information that would change the analysis or the conclusion of the final EIR, and that no further review or recirculation of the FEIR is required. That should have been provided to you as well. So without further ado, staff's recommendation at this time, because the applicant has noted that they are not willing to consider alternative 2, staff is recommending denial of the project and actually recommending that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution number 22-13 based on the findings attached and the attached exhibits, recommending to the City Council the following actions: not certify environmental impact report and deny specific plan amendment 19-05287 and deny development plan review DPR 19-00012. That concludes my presentation. I can take any questions that you have, and I believe that the applicant also has a presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. And at this time, does Commission have any questions for City staff? Commissioner Lopez.
Commissioner Lopez, my first question is in regards to, since the site is located in the flight zone, is it prohibited to have solar panels, or is that a possibility?
I think in the APC one, it would be difficult. I think there's some stipulation against it, but in order for us to be considered, you have to go back to ALUC for that consideration.
So it might be a possibility?
It might be a possibility.
They would most likely be required to do like a glare study.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I had a question in regards to the truck route. So just to clarify, all the trucks will be coming in from the west side of the building down south on Indian?
Yes.
What exactly is on the north end that will prevent trucks from going onto Ramona Expressway? Is there any way that is possible for them to, or they can? Yeah.
There's no physical obstacle to that, but Ramona Expressway is strictly not part of the truck routes that have been established.
Just to make sure.
Yeah.
Is there any way to look at the map right now on Ramona Expressway? Is there, from Indian, can you make a left onto Ramona?
I'm not sure.
Just to give them,
Yes, in practice you can.
Yeah, so my concern is like trucks it's the freeway on-ramp is right there. Them wanting to go on to Ramona and just take the on-ramp to the 215. If there's any way we could add a barrier that can prohibit them to
John?
or something that will make it hard for them to turn right onto Ramona Expressway, I think that would be perfect.
I just want to speak from the side of the enforcement. As you know, we 4, 5, 6 months ago we approved a no truck route on Ramona Expressway. All the procedures are in place. We're still working with the Sheriff's Department to start the enforcement process. So there's some logistics that we're trying to solve right now, but I can report back to you at another time regarding that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Also, I have a question for the applicant. No, hold it. Okay. All right, that concludes my questions. Thank you.
I have a quick question. Does the city know, or
Commissioner
staff?
Gomez.
Commissioner Gomez. Does the staff know, or would you be able to tell us? You're going to be my guy, okay? You tell me if you can't hear me. Good. Do we know if the applicant did some kind of analysis or an inquiry to local residents to see what they would like to have in this area?
I'll let you pose that to the applicant after they make their presentation.
Okay, so not, okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jimenez?
Question for staff. Is there any other alternate land use for being in that flight plan? Because, 3/4 of it is within that dangerous zone and a quarter isn't. Is commercial the only kind of usage for that type of land, or?
In the restricted zone?
Yes.
Industrial.
Industrial is the only-
Is actually probably the best and highest use that you could get there. There are some limited commercial uses that could be that you could have there, potentially car dealership, but most car dealerships want to be closer to the freeway, so it probably wouldn't be the best use for commercial right there. Most commercial uses tend to be a little bit higher density in terms of people per acre, which is one of the restrictions applied by the airport land use compatibility plan. And so there's just not very many commercial uses that could actually consume an area that large and really be viable. That's why staff supported the rezoning of that portion, the most
Right.
restrictive portion of the site, to industrial.
Did we ever discuss, because there was still, when we look at the layout, there was still a little corner of the building that was still kind of infringing on that area that is not within that high danger zone? Was there any alternate plans that maybe rounded off so that we could just maximize the use of that non-dangerous area?
That's actually what alternative 2 is.
But there's still a little bit on there, like the I guess the warehouse component still kind of overlay. So if we could go to the
Yes,
maps.
I think I see what you're saying. So
Yeah.
let me try to go
So-
to
See how there's
so-
still that top corner?
Right, there is a little bit of that corner there. I think just logistically laying out a site plan would be difficult to try and, maneuver that way. It is something that could potentially be done, but it's just not one of the alternatives that was entertained for this
Okay.
project. Yeah.
All right. And can you go back to the elevations, please?
Yes. This one?
No, the next one, please.
This one?
Yeah, because I see that's a north elevation, and I know they worked very hard with staff, but there's a warehouse very similar to that on the northern side, and it kind of mimics it, but can we kind of I don't think that one has a lot of the browns. Can we make it, if this is approved, to match that color a little bit more? Do you know? So would staff be willing to work with applicants on that?
Yes, if that's the desire, we could. You're talking about the one that's just under construction, or finishing construction.
Yes.
We could add a condition
Okay,
regarding that.
thank you. The color, because that one doesn't have the brown, and that one looks, it's more, I know they were going more for the business, commercial type look still, so I think if we did it on both sides, it would seem a little bit more fluid.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Commissioner Hammond. Looking at the the staff recommended alternative 2 site plan. What is the proposed, I'm missing the word now, route within the project? What would be the truck route? Since you're talking about Indian Avenue only, they would enter on the south end and traverse on the south end and then make a turn and come back?
Here, let's see.
So there's really one entry, and the northern entry would not be there according to that plan. So you'd have basically one entry for the trucks, and then the eastern would be auto vehicles if there's going to
let's
be.
go.
Mhm.
You're speaking specifically for
Alternative
two?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so it appears that the passenger vehicle access on the east side of Alternative 2 would likely access the site through the commercial portion of the development.
Yeah, likely what they would do is just, we see it has to be sorted out because
Yeah.
it's not, has not been vetted. In practice, what will happen is you create a driveway connecting back to that driveway approach along Paris Boulevard. It's just be an extension of that until the commercial property develops. It would be just a continuance of a pavement of 20 or 30 feet wide,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
On the southern end, I can't see it on here. What is the width of that drive aisle? Because it's obviously going to have to be more than 26 feet. But if you're going to have trucks doing...
It is
turns-
currently, but it would, if it was to be approved, that would be reduced to 26 feet.
From the truck entry all the way through to the docks? In other words, that...
I don't believe that trucking, for alternative to, no, there still wouldn't be truck entry there because Paris Boulevard just doesn't allow truck
I mean
access.
from Indian.
Oh, from
Avenue,
Indian.
Yeah. What would
Yeah.
be the width of that?
I see. That
Sorry.
is, it would be the same as the current width,
I can't
which
see.
is,
I believe it's 40 feet
I
wide.
believe it's
but
40 feet. Yeah.
Wow, okay. I've got good eyes, but not that good. Okay, 40 feet. There's no way I can see that with a magnifying glass.
I understand.
Okay. So the north, all those other ones would be auto vehicles, passenger vehicles, whether it's west or whether it's east.
Yeah.
Okay, and they would enter, wait a minute. Yeah, okay, I see, Indian Avenue. So you have really three, potentially, mostly on the west side, considering whatever would happen for the, if they were going for a commercial part. Okay, so
Right,
I'm
right.
looking at the proposed that plan, and then the other plan would be with commercial. That would be a whole different aisleway. Okay. So essentially, it's Indian Avenue if it was alternative two, and there
Yes.
would be two. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think too, and that's a consideration on both, is the idea of employee amenities. I don't know if there were employee amenities identified on here.
There is a small break room or break area identified. It's hard to see on
Yeah.
the scale of these plans right now, but there is a break area identified, and there's a condition to add an additional like bocce court or something of that nature.
On the eastern portion, I'm assuming. Okay. Wow. Small. Okay. Wow. Okay, I see. Right up north. Yeah. Okay. Well, you got to have really good eyes. Jeez.
I've stared at this thing
Yeah.
for a long time.
Okay. Gosh. Okay. Okay, I think that's it for this at this point for me. Pretty much laid out. Pretty much lays it out. Pretty much there, and that's it for the question. I can't think of anything else unless someone else has anything for staff.
I do have a question.
Commissioner Gomez.
Commissioner Gomez, can you please go back to the slide where there was a meeting in 2019 with City Council and the
Yes.
Commission?
Here we go.
Okay, thank you. So as indicated on the slide, it was identified that it should be considered for a use change. Is there a reason? Is there a reason why it wasn't done, or what's the process?
So just to give you a background behind that meeting in 2019, there was a lot of pressure or a lot of interest from the industrial development community to propose land use change. So staff brought it before the Plan Commission and Council to give us feedback in terms of how should we approach developers who are interested in land use change. And so there are some sites, at least one particular site that was identified that we should consider a land use change. And this is one of those sites. We didn't go into an in-depth analysis of say, do this whole site get to be rezoned or a portion? From staff standpoint, in our analysis, there's a viable portion that's outside the accident potential zone that allows up to 100 people per acre, which is pretty dense. Like if you just think of 100 people per acre, it's or up to 250. So we, at the staff level, we were suggesting that we leave that area because of the fact that there's 3 other commercial corners there, so that it kind of just matches. That's just staff's recommendation, and we're just bringing that recommendation to you. The applicant probably has a different opinion, and when they come up, they are going to present their positions. But that's how we came to that conclusion.
Now, in order for that, well, I think I know what the next step would be. So the staff recommended site plan has been rejected by the applicant, is that correct?
Yes, we spoke with the applicant. They didn't want to consider alternative 2. They just wanted staff to make a recommendation for approval or denial of their project. So that's why we are in the position of saying, ideally, we wanted to recommend alternative 2, but they didn't want it for us to proceed in that direction. So we had to be in a position to say, because we prefer alternative 2, so we had to recommend denial. That's why it's written and proposed that way in terms of our recommendation.
Correct. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you very much. I can't think of any questions at this time. Not saying we wouldn't later, but for now.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Okay. And at this time, if the applicant has a presentation, we know who you are, but state your name, spell your last name for us.
Thank you. My name is Mike Nagar, and my last name is spelled Naggar. My office is at 445 South D Street. I've been there for 20 years in this fine city of Paris. Good evening, distinguished planning commissioners. It's good to be in front of you again. Just some quick cleanups because of some questions that were answered. Commissioner Lopez, regarding the truck routes, Lowe's today follows that truck route very well. We're going to share a signaled intersection with Lowe's, and they do create a program of education and signage that directs all traffic south on Indian over to the Placentia, or the coming Placentia interchange. So typically they're going that way. We're going to also engage in a signage and education program. So that could be a condition of approval. We have no problem with it. For Commissioner Gomez, you asked about inquiry with the neighbors. I think as we run through our presentation, you'll see why we have not done that, okay? It's not that it's something we didn't want to do, but I think by the time we're done with today's presentation, we're going to show you that this site absolutely, positively, unequivocally does not work for commercial development. And the development window to do something here is so narrow because of the airport zone that we've chosen to design something that is the best use for that property. And also, as stated earlier, we've gone through about 5 renditions of architecture to come up with something that is stunning. We're open to your ideas as well, but the architecture, again, went through 5 renditions. In relation to Commissioner Hammond's comment regarding recreation, yes, it doesn't show up very well on the exhibit, but we're planning on putting in a pickleball court and a basketball court. So those two can interchange. We think that's necessary, and pickleball is the thing right now. So that's what we plan on doing. So I'm going to begin my presentation. I wanted to let you know that our entire team is here to answer every single question you may have. Our architects are calling in, so they're able to take any type of question or feedback you need. Our traffic, air, noise, and greenhouse gas consultants are Urban Crossroads. By the way, I didn't mention HPA as our architects, and they are top of the line in industrial type buildings. Urban Crossroads, again, very well known. They're on the phone as well. Our civil engineer is here. Our environmental, that's Chris Morgan of United Engineering. Environmental consultant Matthew Fagan, environmental, is here. And of course, the applicant is here as well, Mr. Berger. I must add, too, that if you need any type of carpentry done, all you got to do is look into the audience because the Carpenters Union is here. I believe they're here to support the project, and if you need a carpenter, just pick one. They're all very able. Let's see here. The question was asked about the 12-14-19 meeting, and I'm glad that was brought up because that's the exact reason why we're here. It was the result of that meeting that urged this applicant to make application for this project. It was very important that the result that came out of that meeting resulted in this application because the property owners own this property for 16 years. And as you're going to see as we proceed through this presentation, when he comes up to talk to you, you're going to find some things out about Pacific Development Partners and Mr. Berger that make him unequivocally qualified in commercial retail development. And I think you'll be impressed because many people come to him and his company for consultation on commercial development. But I'm going to let him make his presentation. The results out of that 12-4-19 meeting were unanimous as it relates to these properties in the APZ Zone 2. Not only ours, but the one that's across the street on the northern side of Ramona Expressway. And as I bring up this slide quickly, I'm not going to belabor some of these things, but a professional consultant was hired to evaluate the whole Paris Valley Specific Plan area, determine what has been developed, what is left to be developed as it relates to commercial and industrial. So at that time, there was 219 acres of commercial available. Approximately 19.5 acres of commercial land are in the APZ2 zone with the restrictions we're talking about. Of course, our property out of the 19 is 15.66. We are extremely limited in this zone. Moving on to the next slide, I'm not really in the habit of reading from PowerPoint, but if you start to look at the second sentence out of the presentation, it goes on to explain out of that report, the northwest and southwest corners, that's us, on the southwest corners of this intersection are within the APZ2 zone and would need to consider uses that significantly limit the intensity of use, like public storage facilities, it goes on to say that any development here has to be compatible with the March Air Force use zone. So moving on, I just wanted to give you another picture of what that looks like. There's a lot of exhibits. I won't camp on this too much, but it just gives you a good view of the line that sort of bisects on an angle there between the two airport zones. Again, looking at another excerpt out of that report that was given at that commission, if you follow, let's see if I can do it, right under figure 14 where it says Paris Boulevard, the new sentence there says specific uses in APZ2 zone discouraged by the U.S. Department of Defense and prohibited in the ALUC zone include hotels, motels, restaurant, big box shopping centers, places of assembly, hospitals, daycare centers, and other high-density uses. It's extremely restricted there, and also there are similar restrictions in the C1 zone, which is the one in the darker red, that are not as restrictive, but similarly restrictive. Now, you know, we never think of a plane crash, okay? But there's the airport land use plans for that very reason. And of course, many of us, all of us probably remember the plane crash that occurred by virtue of March Air Force Base. You could see where the plane is, where the crash occurred, and then you can see in red down below where our project site is. I do want to say, as I go back one slide, maybe two, you see the blue line there? Public safety doesn't recognize a line, okay? And so when we hear staff says, well, we want to keep 3 acres for commercial, it throws a real sticky wicket in trying to obtain financing, trying to obtain insurance, trying to even get a user that will say, I don't care about public safety. But hey, it's not in the most restrictive zone. Well, really, people don't recognize that line. In fact, they look at that line and say, yeah, but it is in the most restrictive zone, at least from our point of view. It's a safety problem. And that creates, from a commercial point of view, inhibits just about anything we can do there. Again, this is just another map to drill down. You're all familiar with it. I won't camp on this, but it just gives you another point of view of of how the runway and the zones line up in relation to our project site. And again, there you have it as well. Again, a more of a closer view. It's approximately 25%. Alternative 2 is what the city would like us to do, is approximately 3 acres. So on one hand, we're okay with changing, well, we meaning the city, we're okay with changing the zone from commercial to residential, except 3 acres. Okay, and it's that magic 3 acres that later on we're going to talk about, because there's really not much we can do with them. Although it appears to maybe offer something, but we'll talk about it later. You saw this, I won't camp on it, 5 renditions of architecture. You saw the elevations. We made sure that the elevations on Paris Boulevard and Ramona Expressway are very deliberate and really have an attraction as somewhat of an entry monument for that hot corner right there. We understand it's important to the city, and we believe that it'll probably be the most impressive structure on that corner. And you all know what that corner looks like as you drive by it just about every day. We feel this will be very impressive. I'm going to turn it over right now to Mark Berger. Mark Berger is going to talk a little bit about Pacific Development Partners, and I think he'll sort of weave a story about why this cannot be commercial and why that 3 acres becomes highly restrictive. Mark? And just press the space bar.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Chantal, and thank you, Planning Commission, for allowing me to speak. Thank you, staff. I'm trying for the first time here. As Michael referred to, we have owned this property for 16 years. So we've been invested in the city of Paris for 16 years. This is my partner here in the other uniform for PDP. We've got the same pants on, too. We bought the property with the intent of developing it. But since we bought it, we've run into many hurdles that did not exist when we first bought it. The Airport Commission came later, and other things came later, which we'll get into. But we are a real estate investment and development company. We've been in business for 37 years. I was a young man when we started this company. We've done 105 projects, and 65 of those projects have been retail, 65 of them, ranging in size from 5,000 square feet to almost 400,000 square feet, and being very creative projects from lifestyle entertainment to power to demalling and replacing malls to shopping centers in Beaumont, San Jacinto that we still own that we built years ago, Temecula, Menifee. We're very familiar with the Inland Empire, and we built more retail than any other product type. Now, we believe in diversification, so we have industrial, we have office, we have multifamily, 3,500 units. So we're a professional real estate development company. We do this every day, and we love it. And our number one goal is to build high-quality projects that will work for the tenants, the community, and the end customer. And that's our mantra, that's our business plan, and it's very important that we do that because we are long-term holders, and we don't want projects failing. And our track record has been that we've never had a project fail, not one, not a single one. So we're very proud of our track record. Again, I was alluding to certain things that have happened since we bought it. The first one just talks about our financial relationships. We were the first client of Comerica Bank on the West Coast. They're a significant bank, and they would be financing the project with us. And If we do get approved the way we want it, we'll absolutely build a quality project, and it will get built. As I mentioned, we'll get into more detail here with ALUC, which we've already kind of worked through staff. The big issue is that commercial piece, and there's significant mitigating factors on that little piece of property that really make it impossible. I mean, how many applicants turn down the opportunity for that rezone over a little piece that staff wants us to do, but the reason we have to turn it down is it's not really doable, and we'll get into that in a second. Number one, within our radius at that site, we have about 1,900 people, so we have less than 2,000 people that are residents there. And because of ALUC and all the conditions that are there, we'll probably not get more than that ever. Might be top out at 2,100 people. So we're never going to have a residential base that can really support commercial. What's supporting the commercial is the business, the logistics, the warehouses. That's supporting the commercial on the street. The McDonald's, the Starbucks, the gas stations. We've got 3 of them already, just on that corner. And I'll show you what we have here. So when you've done 65 projects for retail, we have dealt with virtually every tenant that goes into these projects, virtually without exception, and they've been our tenants, or we've dealt with them, maybe not made a deal because we made it with somebody else, but we have dealt with all the major retailers, all the big boxes, many of the mall tenants, mostly grocery anchored tenants, all the drugstores. We've done gas station deals, we've done smaller bank deals, smaller projects throughout the Western U.S. And when you're in that business, tenants that want to come to California send me requirements. And this one that's above here is a plum market, which would be a nice specialty market for this intersection. And they're coming to California. They want to do 20 stores here in Southern California. And I'm one of the developers they want to talk to help them find locations and build locations for them. And if you go to the next slide, this will underscore some of the challenges that we have with this particular site. Now, we could probably do maybe 10 to 15,000 square feet. But if you look at the suburban environment requirement, they need 15,000 or more people within a 1 mile radius. We've got 1/7 of that. It's a non-starter for a market like this. In addition, they're going to want a highly visible location from multiple locations that you can see it from everywhere. And in addition, they're going to want access, easy access, because access is key for a customer. If a customer cannot access the site easily, they'll come once, but they won't come again, because there's plenty of other alternatives that they can go to that'll be easier. Just imagine yourself when you go to a center or a gas station, if it's difficult and there's an alternative that's much easier, inevitably we all take the easier alternative. It just occurs. That's what humans do. So this site is not going to be able to attract a tenant like this, which will limit our capabilities. I think what ultimately this site will call to is that you're going to have a small use, but we really don't have that ability. After we bought the property and we were talking to, what was the consultant, the company that we had that was doing all the off-site work that Habib worked for? What was the name of that? What's Tri-Lakes. Tri-Lakes. We were trying to secure a left-hand turn into the property. And we thought we'd be able to get one. But instead, we did not. They put the left-hand turn, and I can't blow it up bigger, but you guys have been by the site. You cannot make a left-hand turn into that property. It's not possible. So the left-hand turn favors the other side where the Sanctuary Church is, and there's a Mexican restaurant there. There's a haircutter place. There's also a pad that's been a pad ready to build for almost 15 years that has not been built on, that they could easily build on, that's not impacted by all the things we are, because they do have a left-hand turn. They do have access. They don't have the restrictions of ALUC there. And it hasn't been built for a lot of these reasons that I outlined, population and density. We just don't have it. So without a left-hand turn and without visibility, because imagine we're going to build a 290,000 square foot building that will block everything going east on Paris Boulevard for customers, you will not see anything until you pass it, because you have a building there that's big, 36-foot high, 40-foot high building that blocks that little corner, blocks it entirely. You cannot see it. If you're going north on Paris Boulevard, you can certainly see it, but you can't access it. You can't get there You not only can't get there, you can't even make a U-turn on Paris Boulevard. You have to go back up past north of Ramona. You can't make a U-turn at Ramona. You have to go up north of there to make a U-turn to come back around. So you could wait at the signal at Paris and Ramona, go up, make a U-turn, wait at the signal coming back to come into our little, space. We don't have much we can do there, maybe a gas station or a fast feeder to use it. Meanwhile, you'll have passed 2 or 3 gas stations with easier access, many fast food outlets that have easier access. So you just wouldn't do it but once, and quite frankly, it wouldn't be built anyway because no tenant was going to take a spot where their customers cannot get to it. They can't get to it. They can't be seen. They can't get to it. Therefore, they won't go. And particularly when there's all sorts of alternatives that are easily accessed in the neighborhood. So, if you look at the retail going south here, starting with Aldi, going all the way down to Stater Brothers, every one of those, and that's really the commercial corridor. South of us is industrial. The National Stores, the Hanes, the Whirlpool, that's all industrial. That's what we are. We're industrial there. If you go further south, about 1.5 miles south, you run into Aldi, Cardenas, Walgreens. All of those tenants have access from 2 streets, left-hand turns, easily accessible and close to the residential base there. And that's why all the retail is there. It's not by accident. And that's why all these retailers are going down there. So for us to expect that we're going to get some tenant to have the most inferior accessibility, the most inferior visibility, just because they want to be there is just, it's a fool's errand. It's not going to happen. There will be nothing built there. And that's why we decided not to draw anything up, because it was not something that was feasible, that we could get a tenant to take an inferior location to all of their competition and show up at this site. It's not going to happen. And it would also impact the look of our corner piece at Paris and Ramona that we've seen the rendering with the nice landscaping and the real corporate kind of office look. It would impact it. Can you imagine putting it would not be good planning. We'd have a gas station and a fast feeder in front of our beautiful building. They don't do that. That's not good planning. So we really have, a confluence of circumstances that require us to rezone the entire property to be the right use. There is no ability to build on that site. We have no access on Ramona. We have no left-hand turn on Paris. We're just going to rely on people making a U-turn or coming from making a left and passing other options to go to whatever we have there. There's no tenant that is really going to go there once they understand the hurdles they have to jump through. Am I done? Yeah. Okay, I've been told I'm done.
Yeah.
Am I done? Oh, I am done. You are the next page. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll continue to go ahead and move through the presentation. The green circle that you see there is the 1 mile radius. As Mark gave an example, the typical market, like a Plum Market or a Cardenas Market, needs 15,000 people within that 1 mile radius. You can see it's just not possible. I also want to mention that as you travel south on Paris Boulevard, about 1.5 miles is when you get into the city's retail corridor with all the good access. If you go up 3 miles to the north to Moreno Valley, you start hitting all of their retail areas. What we're looking at here is, moving on, access that doesn't even really lend itself to a fast food or to even a gas station. First, we look at the 3 other corners. AM, PM, Arco, Shell, Chevron, Mobil, and Circle K. If we were to be able to get a fast food or a gas station purveyor, I'm not sure who they would be or even if they would want to go there. I can tell you that as we go to the next slide, let me make sure I'm right where I want to be. Yeah. So Mark had mentioned access. We are prohibited by deed restriction for any access off the Ramona Expressway. That was granted to then the County of Riverside. Now it's controlled by Caltrans back in 1958. Again, by deed restriction, we're not allowed to access via the Ramona Expressway. So no commercial could get there. Certainly our industrial isn't going to access from there. In addition, staff Engineering conditions of approval, condition number 11, also restricts access from the Ramona Expressway. So we have the deed restriction, and we also have the staff engineering restriction off the Ramona Expressway. Now, as Mark spoke earlier, this shows it a little bit more poignantly. You can't make a left turn into the project site where where staff is asking us to do commercial. Not only that, you cannot make a U-turn at the intersection of Paris and Ramona. You can see you can't make a right turn into the project site from Ramona Expressway, and so access here is extremely limited. If you're going to go to a gas station, you might catch this one making a left turn off of Ramona onto Paris, or if you're traveling straight south from Paris Boulevard. But at the same time, you have all of these other options to do that. It is highly restrictive. Again, that's more of a close-up view of the intersection. Now, in a moment here, for a couple of slides, I'm going to turn it over to our civil engineer. This area significantly floods. In fact, it was mentioned at the joint meeting in December 2019. Some council members and planning commissioners just called it an extension of Paris Lake. That's how bad it floods. And because it floods so bad, even when it stops raining, it stays flooded because the flood control conveyances are not in place. Staff has conditioned us to do flood control improvements off-site. And I'm going to let our civil engineer explain what that is.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Chris Morgan with United Engineering Group. As Mike mentioned, I'm the civil engineer on the project. During review of the project, we worked with your very capable engineering staff, and it was identified that the intersection that many of you sounds like travel very frequently, when it rains, it floods. And a lot of that is because there is a proposed Line E that should go through this entire area that will take all the water coming from the west and carry it easterly. Portions of that facility are in, portions of it are not. So in many cases, it's running down the street when it needs to. Right now, the Lowe's outlet from their basin outlets into the street and across this subject site. That water just flows across the site in an existing ditch. As it gets to the intersection of Ramona and Paris, it adds to the already existing flooding issues. Working with John and Stuart with your engineering department, we came up with a solution to actually take the water, you can see from the red line there, as it outlets from the Lowe's Center, run it through the road and connect directly to the open channel north and east of the intersection, essentially bypassing all of that flood water that currently gets to the intersection and routing it around and past. In addition, this site, because we have subterranean loading bays, so the bays are below grade, and because we're within the Airport Land Use Commission, we've got a somewhat tortured stormwater design in that we've got underground storage that will hold that water and then through pumps, pump it off through filter strips. The Airport Land Use Commission has real strict requirements on bird strike. So we can't have any basins of any kind, anything a bird's going to possibly land in, anything that looks like a pond, anything a duck would possibly land on, we just cannot do. So we've got small landscape strips where we make them look difficult to land in, but we can use those to slowly meter off the water. That water also gets discharged directly into the storm drain that's in Paris Boulevard, and also then takes it north and easterly in storm drain, not going out into the intersection like it currently does. So we're not able to solve all of the flooding issues of the area, but with the addition of the project, we think it'll make a pretty good dent in at least some of the smaller storm events that currently flood the intersection. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
And that's just an exhibit of the regional master drainage plan for the area. So I'm just about done. I wanted to talk about staff's findings because it's a little uncomfortable being up in front of the commission and in front of staff who we have a great respect for and who have worked with us on not only this project but other projects. I mean, quite well. They're very capable. And so it is uncomfortable for us to say, come up here and say, listen, we'd like you, based on our arguments, to not hold us to setting aside 3 acres for a project we don't think could ever be viable, at least anything more than if you could get another gas station or fast food, if you can get those, that's all it would be. And we think the building we're proposing is better than that on that corner. I wanted to talk a little bit about staff findings because, in my opinion, staff had to stretch it a little bit, okay, on the findings. And again, in some sense, I say it tongue-in-cheek, but I do want to go over them because, and I'm looking for my notes, so please bear with me. There we go. So staff, on the development plan review and the specific plan amendment, find it inconsistent. They say ensure a balance of land uses that maintain and enhance the city's fiscal viability and diversity. Frankly, we believe that our bringing this building in that area actually does balance it. I don't think bringing in another gas station or another fast food restaurant speaks to the balance. I think this actually does balance it out. Encourage the development of joint use and dual use facilities such as basins and park use facilities. They say this project proposes only one use, and while a tenant has not yet been identified, it's unlikely the building would be subdivided for multiple uses. Contraire, we divided it and designed it so that it could be used by 2 tenants. In addition, while we may not be using basins as a joint use or park facilities as a joint use, I do think that our off-site addition of regional drainage improvements, particularly having to take that line under the Ramona Expressway to get to the northern side of the Ramona Expressway, I think that may qualify for some sort of joint use or certainly joint benefit. Require measures to reduce a heat island effect by mitigating the warming effects of hard surface uses. An industrial warehouse of this size will add to the heat island effect due to the large, hard surface areas. Well, I'm hopeful everybody understands what a heat island effect is. In order to counter that, all of our colors are very soft. They're not dark, they're not heat absorbing. In addition, we're not proposing any asphalt. We're using concrete, so there won't be that form of asphalt. There is absolutely no reason to make a finding that this would contribute to a heat island. In fact, I am proud to say that, and it doesn't happen often, but we have, or rather I should say the city with our consultant has prepared an environmental impact report that absolutely mitigates every single one of its impacts. There's no statements of overriding considerations. We've mitigated everything, air, noise, traffic, as well as everything else as it relates to heat islands. Encourage project designs that support the use of alternative transportation facilities. Okay, staff wrote it as a condition. We already designed the bus stop into our plan that is on Ramona Expressway. I think they just maybe not recognize that it was already designed into it. And so I think that qualifies us. In addition, just to the south of our Paris Boulevard entry-exit for autos, just immediately to the south is another bus stop that is in existence there today. Something else I wouldn't mind doing that perhaps could additionally mitigate that finding would be, we have no problem implementing a rideshare program, an educational program of such, maybe even give incentives for ride sharing and things of that nature. And I think that would qualify. That's not a new idea. We've done it on other projects before. And frankly, in this environment right now, unless gas prices come down, I think that's going to be very attractive. So we're okay with a condition to do that. Speaking more as well to the heat island, we had a nice chuckle because we were asked to participate in the planting of trees. What is it, 1 tree per 5,000 square feet, at the same time that staff was recommending denial. And it was, again, it was a nice chuckle. We worked together with staff very well, and Kenneth knows him and I had a nice chuckle over it. But we're willing to do that, and that's just fine. You know, again, that would most likely be off-site because we've already landscaped this to the maximum. So we would work with staff to do that. So I think that takes care of the heat island effect. That ends our presentation. I know it was a little long. Again, we don't ask this lightly. I'm going to ask you to approve the project as presented. Mr. Berger would have done this in the finest vein of commercial projects over the past 16 years, if he could have. And I kind of think he just doesn't want to try to fit a gas station or a fast food that may not come anyway. It just does not seem like a good use of the property. And in addition, as he mentioned, would certainly block the view shed of the building that he is planning to do, to have a gas station or a convenience store on this corner. I respectfully thank you for letting us make the presentation and you being patient enough to listen to it. And again, no criticism of staff, just disagreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate. And now, any questions for the applicant? I know. Okay. Commissioner Lopez?
Commissioner Lopez, my question is in regards to, you said there is an impingement in the access point coming east on Ramona Expressway. What exactly was that issue that you guys are facing?
That was in 1958, when that was dedicated to the county of Riverside for a freeway. Now, the freeway eventually became an expressway, the Ramona Expressway. And you'll find this sort of deed restriction all along that corridor. And it's being recognized. You just cannot have these right turns in. You might be able to get it if you put a major deceleration lane onto private property as well, but then that blows up the whole project to try to just fit that in. In addition, again, very important, your staff recognized this and put a condition along with this package that there will be no access from Ramona Expressway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Commissioner Gomez?
Yes, Commissioner Gomez. Earlier, I asked staff if there was any knowledge of there being some kind of, do we know what the public wants in this area? I know that you mentioned you're here in front of staff and in front of the commission, but you're also in front of the residents of the city of Paris. And has there been a study or some kind of questionnaire involving the residents as to what options they have for this land use and what would they prefer, if any, of those options?
No, and the reason, and maybe I wasn't clear enough because I thought Mr. Berger may elaborate it and elaborate on it, and then you would see the connection. The trade area in this area doesn't lend itself to any commercial, and so there's always a risk when you go and ask the residents what they'd like to see, because the presentation that we gave you and staff gave you is quite elaborate. And so oftentimes, and you've all seen the meetings and been in public meetings, they're going to say, well, we need a hospital. Well, we need a market. Well, we need a daycare center, or just go down the list. Since we're extremely limited, none of those options are on the table. So we did not reach out to the community because really there are no options other than what we've presented here.
But you did mention some options in the presentation
Options like the,
as what could be built on the commercial side that is APZ zoned. APZ, is it 2? AP, yep.
yeah.
That's in the fly zone.
In the, it's the APZ zone is very limited. You're right.
Limited.
Yeah,
There
you're
was
right. Yeah, you can.
big box mini storage facility.
They
'Cause
prohibit.
there are options, but just not for high density
Well,
use.
if you look at it from one dimension, there are options, but the options are not viable. If you said, for instance, the community said, well, we'll take 15 acres of self-storage, well, that may get you past the airport land use zone, but it's not viable. There's no market for a self-storage, particularly not that size, and there's no residents in the area to use it.
Well, I live in the north side of Paris, and I know that I come from a community that there's more than 50,000 residents. I mean, maybe not 50,000, but there's a lot of residents to the point to where there's several elementary schools, there's a middle school, there's a high school now. And the only reason why we go shopping to Aldi closer to Nuevo is because that's the only place we have shopping available. I'd rather go there than drive 3 miles up to Moreno Valley, which is what I did before. But now I can leave my tax dollars here. And so I do believe that contrary to the presentation, that within a mile radius, the residential population is not dense enough to be able to fulfill this type of revenue, it doesn't equate. And the reason why is because from my personal standpoint, is I worked at Starbucks, that's right there on Ramona Expressway. Now they have to make a certain amount of revenue to be able to get a remodel, and it's a very high number. That Starbucks has been remodeled 3 times.
Okay,
And
we
so-
want to make sure we just ask questions.
So-
At this time, we just want to ask questions of the developer.
With respect to the market, I've approached every market that would be a potential viable market, and I've been declined by every market, including the new one that was coming to market. So Aldi's here, and they have a left-hand turn. It's easy to get to, and it's close to the residences. It's close to the vast majority of where the residences are. So that's why they went there, and they wouldn't go there. By way of example, to see how it works, the further north you go, the less likely you can make something happen. Let's just look at the original Walmart that built south of me, but north of where they are now. They closed that at some expense to relocate further south because they just couldn't get enough business there. So they had to go further south to get more density. And they're
Okay.
still trying to re-tenant that. I know Harbor Freight's going in there now, and they made a re-tenant some of it. But that's been well over a decade of trying to re-tenant that space. And it would be much easier to do second-generation space than having something built from scratch. But I went to every single market that would be viable and was declined by everyone and have been declined multiple times. I probably did 60 or 70 site plans on this. And that's why I declined doing another one, because I already know that we can't get. We don't have access. We don't have left-hand turn. We don't have visibility. We don't have ease for the customer. So even though what people want, when I normally do outreach, is everybody wants an Apple store, but Apple's only going to go so many places. So sometimes these outreaches backfire, and we have to rely on our professional experience and what the tenants are telling us. Because ultimately, even though the residents may want something, if the tenant's not willing to go there, it's not going to happen.
Well, going back to my question. Would you consider including the community on what they would like to have there?
Well, I mean, I've owned the property for 16 years. The community does not understand what the limitations are. So we only have a small amount of things that they could possibly choose from, and those tenants aren't going to come anyway. The tenants don't go to places that customers cannot access and where they can't be seen. They just don't. Why would they? They won't come.
Can you tell us how you got the information as how the tenants or the residents who are sitting up here don't understand how that works?
I'm sorry, the residents, what I did is I talked to all the tenants, all of them.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Viable.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to remind the commission to refocus on the project that's the item that's before the commission, I fear that we're kind of straying a little bit in terms of what the focus of the item before the commission is.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate the clarification, and that's the reason we know what the residents want. And we're just asking questions to see how far the applicant is willing to go to get feedback from the residents. Thank you for your answers.
Okay.
That's all for me.
16 years of ownership, I've been talking to people.
Okay.
I just have a
Commissioner
few
Jimenez.
clarifying thank you, Commissioner Jimenez. I have a few clarifying questions. Mr. Nagar, you said, and I just want to clarify that out of the 19.5 acres that were zone C1, I thought I heard you say 14, but then on the paper it said 11.75. So I just want to be clear on the numbers. I might have misheard you.
Yeah. Let's have a look.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I
if
think
I-
I misheard you because I heard you say 14, but then when the slide came up, I saw 11. I just want to clarify how much it
I
actually
may
is.
have, thank you, I may have misspoke. So there's, as of 12/4/19,
Okay.
there was 219 acres in the PVCC.
Right.
That were zoned commercial. Out of those 219, approximately 19.5, which consists of us and the property across the street, are in the APZ2 zone.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then 11.75 of the proposed site are zoned.
Approximately, yeah. Are you saying are in the other zone on our property? You mean the
What?
the less restrictive zone? Is that what you mean, or?
The one with the most restrictions, 11.75 are within that more restrictive zone, right?
Correct.
Okay, and about
Yes.
3 point something is
Yeah.
the least restrictive.
Is the less restrictive.
The less restrictive.
Yeah.
And second question, just to clarify, so in this, let's pretend, this commercial zone, and I understand, but fast food restaurant, are there any other options? I know they may not be viable, but are there other options besides a gas station or a fast food restaurant?
Keep in mind, we'd be limited to about a 4,000 square foot building.
It is a little bit, yeah.
4,000 square feet. I'm all ears. Of
Okay.
somebody who doesn't need access or square footage or space, I'm all ears. And also, when you cut this building back on the industrial, we lose the ability to provide office for that tenant. We only have a small amount, and these tenants need office space to go with the warehouse. And that's another thing that doing the alternative would kill it. It would kill that. So we make, in the end, if we did what staff wanted to do and they had good intentions, we would end up with 2 inferior projects, 2, instead of 1 excellent project, which is what we're proposing. Because that project, the second one, the alternative, we couldn't do anything on that commercial. It's commercial in name only, but in theory.
Right.
But in reality, we're limited on square footage, we're limited on access, we're limited on visibility. We really can't deliver much. There's just not a great tenant sitting around at 4,000 square feet that wants to be on the inferior corner. And so, to limit the building and make it less feasible, given its competition, and given it less ability to be competitive and successful by having the appropriate amount of office space available, having the appropriate amount of amenities for the employees, is not a good move in my mind. So that's why we rejected the other one, because we know that we can't make that work from a professional standpoint. Okay.
Thank you. One last question. I know that we're talking about the deed where we can have right turns into this section. Is that also based on the distance from the corner to the entryway, or is it just like 100% the deed, you can't have any right turns in from Ramona?
Can I
Do you know?
answer that question? I know
Oh.
that they mentioned that, but deed restriction can be removed, and we have not vetted through whether we would give a right in, right out. That has not been vetted out.
Okay.
I would just say that.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
So-
but again, Mr. Fung and I are going to disagree because that would be speculative as best. We'd have to go to Caltrans. The distance between getting a right turn into that commercial area and the traffic light that was there absolutely would not work.
Right, okay.
It would need at least 600 feet, and it wouldn't work. And yeah. So the distance wouldn't work, and yeah, they can allow us to have an entry, but there's something else too, and I was trying to think of what it was. In order to have that right turn in, you couldn't just make that right turn in from the existing lane that's there now. That would hinder traffic. That would cause a stacking problem. It would just hinder the right turns. You'd have to put a deceleration lane. There's no room to do that unless you draw that onto our property, okay? And at that point, now you're reducing our footprint of the building that we're designing. You're also reducing, well, the footprint of the commercial that you want to retain. It's just not a good plan to do that. And then you'd have to pass Caltrans muster, and there's absolutely no guarantee that they would allow that.
Okay.
They probably wouldn't, actually.
I just wanted to just add a clarification. The Caltrans doesn't extend this far onto Ramona Expressway.
Okay.
So just wanted to.
Can you say that again?
For clarity of record, the Caltrans right-of-way doesn't extend this far to the proposed property. So just wanted to be.
I don't quite understand what you mean.
Engineering can confirm, but.
Just to clarify, that segment of Ramona Expressway is now under city's jurisdiction. However, those deeds do remain in place, so we have to honor those.
I have a question to piggyback off of this, the Caltrans deed. Does it extend all the way down to Evans? How far does it extend?
Segment, I don't know exactly when what segments of it, how far Caltrans right-of-way was extended, but I know that that portion is now under city's jurisdiction.
Okay. Since you are familiar with how do you know how long it extends?
No, can you repeat the question? Because I'm having trouble hearing.
How far does the Caltrans deed extend down on Ramona Expressway going east?
No, I wouldn't know that right offhand, Commissioner.
I'm just curious, just
Right.
because we have other businesses that also don't have a left way unless they're at a light
No.
on that same street.
I'm being a little redundant, but thank you for the clarity that the city controls that right away. The distance between the traffic light and the right turn into a commercial portion or even our industrial portion would not work without a deceleration lane, which again would have to be pulled back onto our property, and it just starts cannibalizing what turns into what is a good project into what we feel and ultimately would be a subpar project just to get 3 acres of commercial that, as Mr. Berger explained, and I'm not going to be redundant, it's just not viable. And thank you for pointing that out, Ken.
No. Any other questions? Okay,
No.
in the interest of time, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm not going to have any at this point because we have a lot of public that's out there. At this time, public comment, and we appreciate your patience out there. We tend to get this way here. Wow, I've got a lot. On Zoom, I'll start with Zoom. If IT's still awake, are there anybody on Zoom at the time?
No, sir.
Okay. I've got a list of names. Was there a purple sheet that you had? Or you just made a copy? Okay. Okay, I'll try to get these names right. No particular order. Juan Munoz, if he's still there? Okay.
Good evening, commissioners, staff. My name is Juan Munoz. Last name is Munoz, M-U-N-O-Z. I am with the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. This is one of the most thorough planning commissions I've ever been to, which is good. It's good for the city. I mean, you guys want to be thorough as possible. But let's not lose sight of the type of project that's coming to the city. I mean, this project's going to bring good jobs to the city, good jobs to its residents, good jobs after it's built to its residents. As we've seen in the Exhibit A, we saw what happens when you leave a little strip of land. It just stays there, and it could stay there for 20 years. You said you were in there in the 90s or something, and it was just sitting there for 10, 20 years. Is that what's going to happen to this land if it gets cut up again? We don't need that. The project as proposed looks like a very good project. It's going to bring benefits, health care, good paying jobs to the carpenters that build it. And let me tell you, good carpenters aren't cheap, and cheap carpenters aren't any good. And they're willing to bring good carpenter jobs to this. I ask that you consider it and approve it. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. You have a Jason, I'm going to try to say it, Geiger? Okay. I'm trying here. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. My name's Jason Geiger, spelled Geiger, so you pronounced it perfect. I run the training fund right here in Riverside for the carpenters, and we're training apprentices that live right here in your guys' city. And those apprentices will work on this job and hone their skills and make money that keep that money in this city. So I stand in improvement. I hope you guys consider approving this project because it's going to bring good wages and good jobs for these young apprentices that are starting out their careers. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have Omar Kobian. Okay.
Good evening, staff, fellow commissioners. My name is Omar Kobian, last name Cobian. I live off of Celebration Lane in Paris. Well, where do I start? I got a few notes, but this project, number one, I've been in the area for over 30 years. That lot's been a big empty lot for 30 years, and it'll continue to be a big empty lot for another 30 years. If I had my wish list, if somebody sent me, of course I'd get a movie theater, maybe an Apple store like he mentioned, a park. But the reality is it's not gonna happen. I probably wouldn't want that airport there if I had my choice, to be honest with you. But we're living in reality now. Reality is that there's far and few developers that are willing to invest that much time and effort in a property like this and put some nice landscaping and build out a project in that corner. I'm a little shocked that staff even recommended denial because they want a small strip that'll always be underdeveloped. My sister lives in Moreno Valley, and I see areas like that where they'll develop and they'll leave that corner lot because it's going to be commercial. 30 years later, it's still that empty corner lot. It's just a huge eyesore. That corner needs to be filled. It'll finally complete that corner, I feel. The developer's gonna add a basketball court. That's the first I've ever heard. And a pickleball he's mentioned. Not only are they gonna bring in the laborers union, the carpenters union, but all facets of the trades are gonna be. Carpenters are gonna do the concrete. They're gonna do the drywall, the framing. They're gonna do it all, the roof structure, because very few developers are willing to make that commitment. They are. I know Commissioner Gomez, you mentioned about what do the residents want? You're looking at them right here. I didn't see anybody on Zoom. These are your residents. This is what we want. What's best? What's best for the city? Another open lot? I say we approve this project immediately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have an Al Sanchez. Okay.
How you doing, commissioners? My name is Al Sanchez. I've been a member of LaUna for 38 years, and we hope you approve this. Like you said, we've been doing this for a while. Everything about it sounds really good. These guys are technical about everything. You guys are asking technical questions. The bottom line, it's going to get my union brothers and sisters work that are skilled and trained for their pension, for their health. Our motto is we're looking for a job when we got here, whether it's a small job, big job. 30 years later, 38 years later, we're gonna have a pension, and we're gonna be able to be out there on our own, taking care of ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Oh boy. Jason? Okay. I'm not sure about this one. Jason or Jackson? Jason Bias. Okay, thank you. I just couldn't see it.
No problem.
Okay.
Honorable Commission, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Jason Baez. I'm a member of Labor's International Union of North America, and I fully support the acceptance of the specific plan amendment and development plan. Honorable Commission, there's so many things that can be scrutinized in these meetings, but one thing that cannot be is real-life testimonies. And I want to tell you, before I had the opportunity to be blessed into my union, I was living check to check, barely making it, just enough to provide the bare essentials for my wife and children. And, it was very difficult for us. But because of a project like this, a project just like this, that opened the door for a random person like myself, a person you walk past in Stater Brothers, you walk past at the gas station. I got the chance to be trained on site, to earn a living wage, to provide healthy food for my children and clothes that we have to convince them that are okay. Our lives have changed dramatically, along with my brother-in-laws, my cousins, my friends. It was a trickling effect that affected all of us. I want to tell you that this project will open up those opportunities for other local residents. You have the ability to bless somebody with a life-changing career. Honorable Council, Honorable Commission, every day a flood of our finances leave our country. And even through this madness, we're shutting down developers left and right, slowly pushing them to gather up their coffers and jump in that flood onto another country, even ones with the utmost integrity that will make those hard sacrifices of finances to do what's right and try to meet the community to a middle point. We have the opportunity to do something about this as individuals, each of us on our own. If we walk outside, any direction we go in, north, south, east, west, there's a ton of open land, enough to hold us and enough for us to develop on for the next decades and decades and decades to come. Please consider all the good things that this project will do. And lastly, in closing, Honorable Commission, with the utmost respect to you as the leaders of our community, please consider this. With that high of a volume of employees in that facility, it will surely, the probability is so high that it'll draw in more investors that will bring those venues that we want so dearly. Please consider those things. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you very much. And with that, is there any other member of the public that would like to speak? We have sheets of paper, but it's up to you.
I've got one thing to say.
Okay, state your
Very well.
state your name and spell your last name.
John Bradshaw. My church is across the way from your project. I'm at the Sanctuary Apostolic Church, and we've been watching this mud hole across the street for 20 years, wondering, what are they going to do with it? My pastor says they're developing this and that. We never knew about the airport problem that was going over the top of it. We already have three bad places where the homeless hang out, or people like to congregate, or people like to do whatever they're doing on those corners. We certainly don't need another one. If you'd like to go ahead and make this project viable, accept what they're proposing, and let's get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. Podium's yours. This is the time. Okay. 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 Anybody else? Just let's go. Okay. Okay. Would the applicant like, should do this all the time, the applicant like to respond at all? You have the opportunity. You don't have to, but I know you're going to.
Just want to thank you for your patience tonight.
Thank you very much. And this time, since there's no other, this time we close this portion of it and bring it to the commissioners for discussion.
Okay, I'll start. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Like I've said before, I come from a background being a union member myself for many, many years, and I understand, thank you, the value that a union brings to this country. It's a foundation that this country was built on with your hands, so thank you very much. It's difficult to hear for me when an applicant, when it's not working with the staff. It's rarely seen. We have applicants that come up here and they're so willing to work with our staff. And this is a difficult one because it's definitely, there's two sides to the story. There's staff side and then there's the applicants, right? And we need to hear both and make a decision. But I think having that said, we did request a survey that the applicant is not willing to do. And that's, you know, I think that it's just a closed door. And I've been here for more than 20 years myself, and I've seen how the city has grown. It's taken its time, but it's starting to grow. And it's gotten to the point where we're looking for a lot more quality in our growth. We're willing to listen, but we're also willing to express that we do understand how the economics work. We understand population density. And I myself have learned a lot being here in the few months that I've been here, which actually will be a year in June. So it's gone by really fast. Thank you, everyone, for your patience, and staff for your patience as well today. I think the public and everyone else has heard what we've had to say. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Lopez.
It's Commissioner Lopez. I just want to start off by saying that I'm extremely impressed by the presentation or the how the building looks. I feel like this is one of the better designs since I've gotten on the commission. And it for sure gives an aesthetic of commercial building or commercial property. But one of my biggest concerns is the zoning and how much of an abundance of light industrial the city has and how scarce commercial zoning is. And I feel like getting rid of this it's gonna hinder the residents. One of the issues that I have friends and family that live in Avalon's and May Ranch area, they have to travel up north to Moreno Valley or 4 to 5 miles down south to where you guys mentioned Food for Less, Stater Brothers, Walmart area. I feel like a commercial area on Ramona Expressway is so precious for that residence that's in the north side of Paris. And I understand all the issues that you guys are facing when it comes to traffic and population, but one thing for sure is that I know people will show up. I know it's only 1 mile away, 1.5 miles away from the May Ranch and Avalon neighborhoods. I know they'll prefer going there than having to drive all the way up to Moreno Valley or 4 to 5 miles down south to the Stater Brothers area. I would hate to see that commercial area leave. So that being said, I would have to agree with the staff's recommendation of at least trying to push for that 3 acres of commercial zoning. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Jimenez.
I do want to say that was a beautifully packaged presentation from the applicant. It was very thorough. However, I have to agree with my fellow commissioners, and I stand with the union, and it's very unfortunate where the applicant is giving you this option or nothing, where there was something that could have been kind of a mediation where we would have all been a little bit happy. I wish they would have protected that full section. I know that curving it is hard to do, but I really feel conflicted where it was like no real negotiation. I understand, and I think, population density is becoming a thing of the past, especially when we're looking at the development and warehouses and light industrial. I think, strong marketing departments will also start looking at traffic studies. We have the lake, that is a main gateway into our lake and out of our lake. So I know I've stopped across the way at that little market and paid $20 for a tomato just because of the access, especially with all the warehouses coming to our city. Sometimes I really don't want to get on some of the roads. Sometimes I just need something that's quick, easy, accessible. I'll make a left turn, I'll make a U-turn just to not have to fight with truck traffic, especially when they're not respecting the ordinances. And I really think that even given the limitations, I see the traffic. Like I said, I travel that road twice a day. I see the long line at Starbucks. I see the long line at McDonald's. I see where there's times where I'm trying to get gas, and I really have to see which gas station I'm going to go to because they're packed and backed up. Subway, there's a Harry's Cafe. There's so many places there that when you drive by at any given time, there's high density usage. So I really think, and I appreciate the staff for really trying to protect our commercial use as much as possible because we need that. As residents that travel those streets, and we're here representing our community, and although there are places that kind of stay stagnant, I really feel like our city has developed. I mean, years ago, we could have never imagined an Aldi coming in. We could have never imagined some of these places. In-N-Out is coming. Chick-fil-A. So I really feel like we have to elevate that standard, and my heart goes out to our carpenter workers and everybody that's here from the union. But I really feel like it's very unfortunate where we were given either this or nothing. I really, really would have liked to see a little bit more back and forth negotiations, kind of give and take a little bit more so that we could have ensured that there was a project that we could have backed up. And our carpenters know, our union know, we back our community very heavily, but we really have to back our community and really do things that are in the best interest, not just for now, but 20, 30 years from now. I think there's also a lot of opportunity. And when we look at the census, there's a lot of people that have to travel very far for work as well. And I really think we need to create more opportunities to keep more things local. I hope that in the future we can work a little bit more closely with our applicants to really, really kind of meet the needs of both. Thank you.
Okay, another hour's late, so I'll try to be brief. And I've been on this commission 20 years, so I've heard everything under the sun more than you guys ever have, trust me. Every kind of argument. I've been here as long as Mike's been here. And I've been chairman on some of the most difficult things you ever would see in the city sitting in this chair. One of the things about being commissioner, you have to be quasi-judicial. That means you have to balance the needs of what the law is, what the requirements are, but also what the needs of your population. While everything is very, very, very important that you have jobs and things like that, but we equally get heated from people that don't like warehouses. You ought to hear the viciousness that comes from people about warehouses, and we just have to sit and take it because that's part of being up here. So just as equally, they come to us and they give us the business, okay? Sometimes you don't want to take it, but you have to because we're in this position. So we can find 700 people to sit here tonight and say, we don't want it because we don't want any more. So you've got to balance that. You've got to balance that. I was at the December 19th meeting. December 19th meeting was pretty straightforward from the council what they wanted. It wasn't even something that was hedging. The council was sitting there with us. And this, what we're talking about, here's what they're talking about. So when you talk about the zoning as it is, that's what they're looking at. So we have to look at it from the standpoint, okay, what's the balance? What can we do? What I don't like, and I agree with my cohorts here, I think to say that we will not accept it at all almost makes me very angry. Sit down with them and work with them. 290,000 square feet, work with them. Work with them. We know that Paris is not the same as it was in 1990, because I was here then. You couldn't get an Aldi. You couldn't even get Walmart here. You couldn't get anybody here. You have a lot more residents now. Second thing, which was not mentioned, Ramona Expressway is a very heavily, thoroughly traveled corridor. They will have customers there, period, because we live here. Okay, so we know there will be people. People that build houses on Evans Road. They just approved a project. We didn't want the project, but they just approved the project over in Evans Road over there. That's more houses. To tell me that they won't do it, Ramona Expressway is very heavily traveled, and you got to live here to know that. So we see the truck traffic. I'm there. I'm retired, so I see every day. I see this traffic. Whether it's the gas station, I'm not going into what should be there because that's not our purpose. It's whether the zoning should be changed, and we're talking 3 acres. Can we conform with 290,000? I think you need to work with the staff. That's my recommendation. And I don't think we should ever say we're not going to work with the staff. It's on us. We pass it to the next level. All we do is recommend to the next level. That's all we can do. Our recommendation, we trust staff. I've been working with some of these guys for a long time. In fact, I've outlasted most of the staff, exception of me. In fact, no staff member has been here longer than me. And so I've outlasted them too. But the thing is, you learn to be adaptive and not say we won't do it. Like they can't say we can't do it. You work together. And I was really troubled that we just say we're just not going to do it. Work with them. Let's work something out. Just like we found out about Ramona Expressway. We didn't talk about the easement. We didn't even know anything about that. We didn't know about Caltrans not thinking that belongs to the city. We didn't have any idea about that. We also, too, and all those corridors we're talking about, you can't make left turns and right turns on most of that stuff. Okay, so even if you're going to the Arco, you got to take a left and go around that way. So there's always some impediment, just like the 7-Eleven going down farther. You can't even left turn into there. So there's always impediments in this area because you have a lot of truck traffic. And because it's so heavily truck traffic, and we're trying to get away from all the pollution, all that, this is just a small microcosm of an area. So that's what makes it very difficult because obviously it's very hard to get any zone changes to this commission. But when you have very little business space and you have very little of that left, once we start giving it away, like we did on another project, it's gone. So it's kind of a balance. It's a tough balance. It still can be built with 290,000 square feet. But I'm just saying, if that's something that staff can work with and don't take the hard line saying, if for some reason it can't do after that, it's past us. But I think there still should be some effort to work back and forth. These guys are good. I trust them in every way. I trust staff. Some cities don't trust their staff. Some commissions don't trust their staff at all for anything. This group I trust. So we don't even need to see all the end results. But I'm just saying, for me, it's one of those things that I don't want to hear we can't make any kind of, we're not saying no industrial, because like the community is saying no industrial. The community is going to get all over us. They're even considering this project. But then on the other side, we know it's one of those things, it's reality because it's an airport zone. We know about airport zones. A lot of them don't. That's why she's talking about meeting. A lot of people don't understand that this in that corridor, there's not much else you can do. They don't want to believe that. So making that message get out is not always easy. We know it, but then there's the 5 of us or 4 of us sitting here. We understand it. They understand it. Community probably doesn't. So I'm just saying we need to find a way. That's why I kind of support theirs, because we need to find a way to work it out. If we can't, so be it. But I think we need to not just say we're not going to accept it all. There's nothing. We need to have some dialogue, and I think I'd be more than willing to push that dialogue forward, rather than just say yes and just say no on. I'm really looking at that, because we need stuff built. Obviously, they need jobs, but we have to live with the decisions we make. Because you'll leave, and we're going to be the ones with our names on the project saying, yeah, we're the ones that say we didn't want this or we did want this. We got to hear it, and we hear it, trust me. So I think that being said, the time being late, I appreciate the testimonies. I appreciate the speech. We're not saying we're negating it, but also we got a councils over us. Okay, so we've got to balance that too, just like they do. So I'm just saying I'm kind of siding with them, not because I hate the project, because I don't mind the project, but let's see if we can't work something. We know your expertise in that area, but Paris is not the same Paris as 16 years ago. I was here 16 years ago. You could get anybody to come here in 2005. You couldn't get a dog show to come here, okay? Now you've got almost everybody coming, a few more coming we won't mention. But you got a lot of big ones coming, and there's a lot more people. 80,000 people versus 24, 22 when I was here. Not the same city. Not the same level of traffic. They're about to put a freeway in. I'm not even going to go into that. But I won't go into that. But I mean, that's where Paris is at. So I'm kind of, it's a hard one. It's not easy for any of us. But we've got to be kind of in the middle ground here. Let's see what we can work out. Okay, please. I'm asking, I know when you're 28, don't just say no. Please see what you can work out. Okay? So we're not against you. I mean, that's the most beautifully designed proposal I've probably ever seen, maybe one or two in 20 years. But we still have to put on the judicial hat. And so once we do that, we got to go, well, what can we do? That, to me, is a suggestion. Don't just toss it in the ocean. Okay? If not, okay, that's all we can do. But we're just doing that, and I'm just saying for me that I'd rather at least see if you can't work with staff. I know it's going to make you work harder. But I think there should be some give and take, and let's see the results of that. Don't be hard line. Because we're not taking a hard line. You take 30 seconds, just boom, we're done. But we want this project to go through, but we also want to have some dialogue. Okay? Yes, that's it for me. Anything else you guys have to add? Okay. Okay. I don't think there was anything to add to this, was there?
Just, if I guess it's just a color, matching the across the street.
Okay. Thank you. And with that, with there's no more discussion, what am I looking at? Oh, okay. Need a motion.
I need, Robert, can you clarify what the motion would be and what a yes vote would mean and what a no vote would mean?
Certainly. So the recommendation from staff is to adopt the resolution 22-12, recommending that the Planning Commission, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong item.
Yeah.
Okay, bear with me one moment.
22-13.
It is, I'll just look at the agenda. It
What
is
is?
to adopt Resolution 22-13, recommending to the City Council denial of SPA 19-05287 and DPR 19-00012 to rezone 15.66 acres from commercial to light industrial to facilitate the development of a 347,918 square foot industrial building located at the southwest corner of Ramona Expressway and Paris Boulevard based on the findings in the resolution. If the commission would like to adopt staff's recommendation, then it would be a motion to approve excuse me, the staff's recommendation as I just read. A yes vote on that motion would mean to recommend denial to the City Council. A no vote would obviously be to defeat that motion.
And I think she was talking about color enhancements.
Yeah, so, and can we add that? I mean.
At this stage, because it's assuming
Denial.
it's the pleasure of the commission to recommend
need to do
denial, I think you can just provide general direction to staff on those points. In addition to, I think Mr. Fung wanted to add something.
Yeah, I would just say that we will just carry forth the recommendation and we'll incorporate, if the desire of the council is to approve the project, we would incorporate whatever you are suggesting. We will put in the staff report as part of the discussion if the council desires to approve the project, if that's the ultimate decision.
Right, but that direction, or rather comment, would not be part of the motion.
Correct.
Perfect.
Okay. Now I'm thoroughly, okay. I think I got it, right? So we're really not adding that.
We're not adding it right now, but they would bring it up when
future.
they go to council. Yes.
Right, that's correct. So if the commission wants to deny the project, but at the same time has comments, as Mr. Fung said, about the project, because it's going to be recommended to council, and they may very well decide to approve it. We don't know.
Right.
But if the commission would like to make suggestions in the case that council wants to approve it, then the commission could provide comments to staff, and they can then incorporate that into that staff report. But that won't be a part of the motion to deny, because obviously you can't add comments and conditions, extra conditions on something that you're denying.
Perfect, thank you.
Or rather, recommending to deny.
Okay.
Ultimately, the staff, recommending the staff further discussions, regardless of the outcome, further discussions more intense about what the project that we talked about, what you came up with into now, but 290,000, there was no specifics. So to discuss that and see and with the recommendation, if we vote
Right.
for the commercial and for the other one, and what that would look like in terms of
Right, right.
the
So,
route.
right. So what I would recommend is that the commission first entertain
The
the
motion.
motion, whether to, I mean, whatever the commission's pleasure is.
Okay.
And then from there, I'll advise at what point, what additional comments that the commission would like to add as well, as a separate
Okay.
step.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, we just need a motion. All right, I'm sitting here looking at Commissioner Lopez moves and seconded by Commissioner Gomez.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, just to be clear on the record, that's a motion to adopt staff's recommendation as read.
Thank you.
To deny.
Which would be to recommend denial to the city
Right.
council as stated earlier.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Chair Hammond.
Yes.
With the vote of 4 yes and 1 recusal, this motion passes.
Thank you very much. Brian,
Mr. Chair, at this point, if it's at the pleasure of the commission, if there's any comments you might have for staff on this project in terms of what, discussion items that you would like the staff to bring to the council.
I didn't know we could do that now. Okay.
It's just a.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I think, well, I'm just one person.
Just recommend that they work with the applicant to submit a survey with the residents, the community, with options.
I think also to discuss the ramifications of that size of facility and how that could be worked with in terms of adding that commerce portion. In other words, you talked about de-acceleration lanes, you talked about things of that
turns.
nature.
Mhm.
We didn't know anything about that kind of stuff, so that would be important
For the
to
council.
discuss, especially if the council's going to ask it. Guarantee they're going to ask it. And if that's a possibility, that changes it, because I didn't know anything about that. We know about the left turns, we know about the right turns, we know about all that, but that one thing by turning into that would make a big difference. So that one thing is a discussion point that since we couldn't do, and that's just amongst many things to discuss, but I think not the building architecture, all the other stuff, but it's essentially that particular component. Also, too, a portion of that southern portion is in API's zone 2, whatever that is. That portion is in the bottom, and I think that, that part cuts into the 3.3 acres. The little bothers section
little
is a
corner
triangle.
section.
Yes, okay, I understand.
That's a discussion.
Yeah.
Chair Shively,
I don't have the
Chair,
picture in front of me.
Chair Hammond, just a point of clarification. Vice Chair Shively, we're technically still under
Ooh, check
item
him again.
7B.
Oh,
I would ask as a matter of,
You can go back to sleep.
I apologize.
You can go back to sleep now, okay. Sorry.
okay, wait, let's wait for him to leave.
I didn't see a slip right there. Yeah.
He's quick like a bunny.
Got bored, I guess. Okay. Okay, thank you. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, that, you know what portion I'm talking, I don't have the map in front of me, but there's a little portion there that's part of that.
Yeah, I understand. This is a portion of the C1 within the commercial and the APZ portion in the commercial. We'll have a brief discussion when we take the report to council.
Yeah. In essence, we're going to let staff, you guys work it out. If not, okay. But I mean, we that's where we are. So we're trying to make some recommendations to staff. They know what they're doing. I'll let them talk with your expertise. Okay. Okay. I don't have anything else.
Can we request that they request a population density report and that's current, because we're no longer 70,000 residents. It's been a while.
I think what we have to do is just bring that up as a topic
Okay.
For discussion.
of the council to discuss whether they want to make a decision with that information or they want to wait for that information before they make the decision. So we'll just kind of weigh in for them to decide, and we'll say, hey, these are all the discussion points that the Planning Commission desires. We can only address some of this at this point.
Right.
Do you desire to approve, deny, or wait until you get additional information? So that's how we would probably approach the report.
Okay, thank you.
Same thing with like a traffic study, right? Or like a, I guess, study of how busy the surrounding areas are. Would that also be part of that?
Correct. We could add in those
we?
discussions, and it just really ultimately
What the
determines what the
council's
council, how much information the council wants, because I don't think we'll have all those answers before the council meeting. We're just going to present the information, what the planning commission desires to have, and wish the council have to, before they make the decision, and it's up to the council to decide if they think that this information is needed for their determination, or whether they want to wait. We'll just present the
Present
different
it.
options to them.
Perfect. Thank you, Kenneth.
Wow.
All done? I'm just making sure there's no more. I'm
No,
just
no,
making
no,
sure
no,
there's
no, we're good, we're
Oh,
good.
okay, great.
Thanks, thanks.
Mr. Chair, I just want to remind the commission, we're still broadcasting.
I know. Okay, we're waiting for Mr. Shively to, now you can come back. Did you have a nice sleep and eat all those chocolate bonbons back there?
Were you waking up? Did he wake
Yeah.
It was a nice nap.
See, okay, we're at business item number 8. Obviously, I don't believe there's any. We're at number 9, public comments, whether it's Zoom. Obviously, no one here, but if there's any Zoom comments, IT. Okay, guess not. And there's no public comment. We close the public comment portion. Go to commission members' announcements or reports.
It's been a long evening, Commissioner Gomez. It's been a long evening. I'm glad to hear the comments from the community tonight. I'm so happy that we have such a diverse commission, because we're able to listen to different opinions, professional opinions, as well as experience. That really, the audience said it themselves. This is the most thorough commission, and we've heard it from other planning commissioners from other cities, that they tell us they also hear, that City of Paris Planning Commission is very thorough, and they ask a lot of questions. And yes, we're here till 10 o'clock at night, but it matters. And so I'm still very proud to be part of this. And to those that missed, happy Mother's Day, happy late Mother's Day. We're still in the month of May. There's been so much going on. I can't keep track of everything, but I know there's been a lot of events with the city as well. And I look forward to tomorrow morning. I'll see you guys there. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez?
I too want to reiterate what Commissioner Gomez said. It's a pleasure working with these commissioners alongside with them. Also, I want to thank the staff always for going above and beyond for all the work that you guys do. And it shows all the time. The details that you guys put forward in front of us it goes unnoticed. Or it doesn't go unnoticed. Let me correct myself. Yeah. Also, prior events that happened, I did run the 5K during the 5K color run, and I did attend the health fair. I was very happy to see how many people showed up to it, and it looked like the community was having a lot of fun. I saw people of all different age groups attend, families. And I was lucky to help I was volunteering at the garden, and I got to see all the hard work that team does there, and what the city of Paris is actually pushing for. And tomorrow I'm going to be attending the State of the City address tomorrow morning, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, besides that, I hope everybody stays cool. It seems like summer is coming a little early this year. But yeah, I hope everybody has a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jimenez?
Thank you. Yeah, if I didn't wish everyone a happy Mother's Day, Feliz Dia de las Madres on May 10th, for those that celebrate on May 10th. I celebrate both. We're winding down our school year. You know, things are getting settled and ready to wrap up the year. The students are definitely ready for summer break. I think teachers a little bit more. We're looking forward to summer break. I had the opportunity to visit the new KFC. If you haven't been inside, it's beautiful. It's very small inside, but it's very cozy. The colors, it's very modern looking, beautiful building. Cannot wait for Little Caesars to open. Other than that, looking forward to tomorrow morning as well. I'll see you all there bright and early. I don't think I've ever seen you guys that early in the morning. See what you look like in the morning.
Welcome back, Commissioner Shine.
Well, I guess I'll just put my makeup on tomorrow morning for you. Yeah. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow morning. I don't have any other additional announcements or anything else like that. But it was a long meeting for you guys. I'm sure that you did the right thing, so I will leave it at that.
Want to say a real hats off thank you to Sylvia, and we're glad she's back. Got the planning commissioner's role. This is the abbreviated version, guys. I got a thick book, but this is hopefully it'll be helpful and something that every one of them, if as new ones come on or whatever in the future, just kind of a standardized overall viewpoint. And I think it's really good just to kind of look at. And you having already sat through it and been on it, you're going to have a different perspective than if you just came in brand new. Pretty much like when we went to that League of California Cities, almost all of them were new. They had no idea what they were doing. They could have gone over this and skipped some of the meetings. Let's go point by point, because that's what they really know. What do you really do? So I really appreciate that. And Kenneth has enough hats on as it is, so appreciate it. But I will be there tomorrow too, morning, and. We get to show off. That's what really the state of the city is showing off all, and there's a lot for the city of Paris. So it ought to be interesting to see how that goes. Okay, and with that, and again, post Mother's Day. And I know it's after the fact, but we've been away a long time. But again, you know, we still celebrate every day. Really, it's Mother's Day, if you know what's best for you. Okay, and with that, we go to the Director of Development Service reports and their information.
Good evening, Chairman Hammond and members of the Planning Commission. Hopefully you will have enough sleep tonight to attend the early State of the City. But it should be a good time, and hopefully you enjoy some of the progress the city is making during that meeting. Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend that meeting. I've been assigned to attend another meeting in Hemet tomorrow morning, so I will be waking up as early as you will be to drive up to Hemet to get there at 8 a.m. So unfortunately, I won't be there to enjoy the festivities with you. In regards to what's happening, as you know, you could probably see WSS, they're trying to open soon, and Little Caesars, and just want to let you know that Canes has submitted their application to the city. So just want to let you know that's happening, and that's going to go next to close by the In-N-Out. So they all like to be in that one quadrant. Eventually, they're going to hopefully trickle up north to Ramona Expressway. So, but with that said, you know, staff, there's the ICSC conference that's starting on Sunday and early next week. Some staff and some of our council members will be flying out on Sunday morning to head up to the ICSC conference. So we're continuing to build that relationship to bring more retail, and you know, we're always trying to pitch for people to go to Ramona Expressway. At some point, they will get there, but I just want to let you know that's what's going on. Beyond that, our next planning commission is June 1st, so just be prepared for a staff report package. I think that needs to go out next week. I can't recall. I'm losing track of time right now, but we'll have a meeting on June 1st, so just be prepared and I'll put that in your calendar. With that said, have a good evening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
And thank you to the engineer, the city attorney, for putting up with a long meeting, and Ryan, of course, always Ryan. Yeah, I guess wearing 3 hats tonight, running on. But we appreciate it. And with that, we adjourn. I don't think we have to worry about the formalities, unless you want to stay here in the dark and you can sleep. But, okay, thanks, guys. Great commission. We got a great commission, guys. Great commission.